Happy Friday, socialites, and welcome to the best damn social club in the universe. I am your host, Jedi ASU, and thank you so much for spending a portion of your Friday night with me and my guest this evening. Hopefully you had an outstanding week. Hopefully your feet hurt because you did kick so much ass. It's going to be a really great conversation. I'm excited to go ahead and have this one in, so make sure you go ahead and sit back, relax, pour yourself a drink, and let's get social, because today is the 12th of March, 2021, and I'm excited for today's guest. I think you probably have seen some of the promotions that I was saying out there. He is one of my oldest friends at ASU, and we're not talking about age, just someone that I have known the longest amount of time since I was at ASU in Tempe, and he is someone I admire, someone I look up to, someone who I respect, someone who I aspire to be, not only from a business perspective, but also his very, very well done graphic design, art, and everything else that you are probably very familiar with. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Trujillo, Pixel Man. Dan, you are on the stream, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know what? Like I said, just happy to be here, and I was just excited to, pregame with you a little bit. I know you got a little few things going on, coming up. I think you got a pizza run showing up in a little bit too, right?
I do. Taking care of feeding the kids. My son has a friend over, so
yes.
There's some ruckus. I'm apologizing up front because kids are, teenage boys will be teenage boys running through the house. So
you know what, you brought up a brilliant point, right? And that was about how we were talking about the BBC interview with that one gentleman that had his daughter just walk and stomp on in, right? And if you don't have chaos going on behind you, then it's like maybe you're just really truly hiding something and instead of just embracing the chaos.
Right. Duct tape does wonders, right?
Yeah, exactly. If only. I even have that ASU duct tape, so that one actually works, but it leaves a mark. So I won't say more than anything else than that. So how have you been, man? How's everything? How's the pandemic been treating you? From a business perspective, right? It seems like you've been fairly busy, actually.
I have. Well, when it first hit last year, everything grinded to a halt. I think it did for everybody because everybody's like, whoa, this pandemic, what do we do? And,
right.
And everything stopped for about a month. It just seemed like everything stopped. And then as things started moving again, fortunately, business picked up, and I've been busy since. So no complaints. Good. Grateful for that. And then life's good. I mean, just still settling in. We bought a house almost a couple of years ago now.
Right on.
Still trying to, you buy a house, you need to make it a home, and my wife's great at that, but we're still in that process, and that could take several years. But she had a clean slate and a nice brand new palette to work with, so that process goes on.
Now, where are you at again?
We actually moved out to Queen Creek.
Okay.
So since I work from home,
right.
It was just from another part of town, a little farther away. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is far to go to meetings. I do have to go, but it's nice to be in a quiet neighborhood. Fairly quiet.
Absolutely. And so how close are you? So, because again, for apologies to everyone that's watching live, and if they watch a stream later on in a few years, I'm going to continue to refer to Polytechnic as East because Dan and I are part of the first graduating class from East. It's going to be East till I die. So how close are you to East?
About 20 minutes now. I used to be farther away. And back when we were going, I used to have to take Chandler Boulevard from almost where the I-10 is. So I-10, Chandler Boulevard, Williamsville Road. And back then it was just all these farms. And so
it was all fields.
All fields, all farms, and all of that. So I remember when I had the evening classes, driving back home from that, and just it was a two-way street for a while.
Yeah, and it was pure dark. I mean, it was true darkness back there. I mean, and even then, when I'm looking at Google Maps, it's just like, holy crap, like none of this existed. Right. I remember there was something that I had to mail, and I couldn't drop it off there. I had to go to the post office. So there was a post office, and I can't remember. It's off what is that word? Power. I guess it's right off Power Road, but it was buried in the middle of all these fields of just corn or whatever. I'm curious if it's still there, right? But I'm just like, wow, none of this I remember. And for me, I used to kind of similar route with you. I would actually work. I was a teller at a Bank of America at the Albertsons on Rural and Ray. So I think it's still, I think the grocery store is still there.
It's still there. That's the area that actually kind of around there is where I moved from.
Okay.
So yeah,
Got
it's
it. So that's exactly where I was. So like you, I would take Ray Road all the way across and then do that. But then the days that I wouldn't work, it was a 60 and then all the way out that way. So,
and Power had that stretch where they actually made it 2 lanes, and then all of a sudden it just went down to that, up near campus, it was back down to smaller, almost farm roads again.
Exactly. It was just like, I mean, I need to drive out there when I get out there again, just to see how different it is, because I've done the 60 in Power. I know that whole area. I'm like, wow, this is kind of incredible how much it's grown, but just kind of head a little bit further south and be part of that as well. It's just incredible.
I've driven by there several times, but never just had the urge to just make that turn and go in. Back when we were going, remember you drive in and it was a long way just to get to the buildings where things were actually, it was the ghost town, and you see all the empty buildings, and then you where they made the new student union and all of that was in the center. Right. And then you had pockets of buildings here and there where they actually had classrooms or staff or, like faculty offices. Right. And all those things. I had one class that was really far, and I don't even know why they chose it. It was super far in the back. You have to drive, and there were no lights. It was just totally dark.
Where was it?
The parking lot where there'd be a few lights on, and you're just looking around. And I think weren't there airstrips kind of at one end?
There was. That's what Williams Field is right now. So if you went all the way to the back, it was a Williams Field. But I think I remember the class. I don't know if it was a photography class or something else, what it was, but it was just this one little building that you just took classes in. Yeah, so one was I don't remember what classes they were, but one building was, as you were going in, it was on the right-hand side, almost to where the airstrips were, and you walked in, and they were only using a few rooms, and it was just building of just kind of emptiness. And then on the other side was another small building where I think they had those creative type things, because I had like a class for a little while. We were doing silk screening, and so So that the building where they had those kind of more of the creative services, I think they had like the photo developing labs and all. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and it's incredible just talking to everyone how robust the campus is now, because when we were there, like the theater was locked up. Right. The only reason you went into the theater was for graduates. It's like, yeah, you don't step in there unless there's graduation. The theater was locked up. The cafeteria was like only open till like 2-3 o'clock. Right. And I'm like, there was a hotel. I think it was an old hotel that was on base, or maybe it was just a set of apartments that was designed like a Motel 6. It had it was stacked and they had the rail. Right. That was like one of the first dorms on campus, right? So it was just, and I mean, like you said, it was just such a feeling of emptiness, because I remember to the south of all those buildings, there was a lot of houses that but they were all abandoned. Right. I mean, there was you were not burned out, but they were just husks and glasses there. Right. And now, it's just, I'm guessing there's probably all kinds of new development there, but it was just really, it was disconcerting driving around, because it was an army base that's fully abandoned, and you're like, okay, something's going to jump out at me. Right. But I always wondered how well in the long term would this work out, but they made it work, obviously. So it's brilliant how amazing it is now, right? Because I mean, it's just like you said, it's robust, and even then the entry has changed, because you used to drive all the way straight from the entrance all the way to the back to the airfields. Now when you turn in, you make this right, and then you kind of go around everything, right? So that main drag where everything was is kind of closed off now. Okay. So you can't see everything in there. So that's kind of why I was just very curious as to kind of go back and be part of that and see what's going on, and visit what's going on within the field. After I graduated, I never went back. So see, I've done. I need to go back. Right. I want to. It's just a matter of, is there time to do it? And I want to make time to do it. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's just, that's where it was at. But it's like you said, I mentioned this while we were pre-gaming, right? There's you know, we knew each other on campus, right? We've had some classes and we knew each other. I mean, this was back in the late 1900s, we'll put it as. And so we were out there and we had a number of classes together and everything else, but I think we peripherally knew each other, right? But it's just like you said, after graduation, I had some summer classes and moved to California, right? You didn't step foot on campus either as well. So, I mean, obviously I think we were a little bit more along in our relationships and everything else, right? So we're a little bit older, and that's where our life took us. But it was almost, let's see, it's almost 15 years before we reconnected, right? And being able to go ahead and say, yeah, look, holy shit, we were at ASU East together, we graduated together, and it's like, so it's just very cool being able to because of Twitter to be able to reconnect in that way.
Well, and I was already married too, so I was like the old married guy in class. So just a quick story on, I left ASU for a while. I just had some things happen in life, and I just kind of walked away from school, and then for 5.5 years or so, and then I ended up getting a job that they said they would pay for school. And I thought, okay, I'll see what that's all about. I mean, I would walk up to, the student union and where you would pay tuition. I would hand them a piece of paper from the company I worked for. And they're like, okay, it's all taken care of. Go get all your books and everything. I'm like, wow, that's legit. They're paying for everything.
Wow.
So before that, though, do you remember Professor Mattson, John Mattson?
Oh, absolutely. John Mattson. Yeah. He's actually, it's an interesting story about him. John Mattson, his brother is the founder of Mattson Shipping. So if any of you guys are out there and you see the big old shipping containers with Mattson, Matson, that was his brother was our professor at ASU East.
Awesome. So my wife and I were out at Walmart, of all places, the one in Tempe, like on Elliott.
Yep.
And Elliott and Priest. And we're walking, and I hear my name being called, and that he has a familiar voice.
Yes, he does.
Making his voice. So then, and he has those mannerisms, right? So he says my name, and I look. You remember how he would kind of give you that side eye look? Do you remember that at all?
Vaguely.
And he just said, "You need to get back to school. You need to finish up."
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know what it was, but it kind of hit me like, you're right. I do. So he said, call me, because it was over the weekend. He said, call me on Monday. I don't think he had a card or anything. He said, but I'm out, at the East or Polytechnic campus. Call over there. It's going to be easy to find my number and connect with me. Call me on Monday. And I did. And he just said, get your butt back over here. We'll work it all out. And and when I went back, I was on academic probation. So we can kind of hit on that really quick.
That's wild. We both went to East on academic probation. I love it.
I had I think I was down to 0.7 GPA.
Yep.
That's how low it was.
I outdid you. I had a 0.6. So there.
So I was, before I left, I had a really bad relationship. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of was eating me up. And I ended up not going to classes, but I stopped going to classes right after the drop ad date, if you remember that.
Oh, yes, of course.
So I did that for one semester, and I think I had 6 or 7, I think I had 6 classes and took F in all of them. I just stopped going. Oh, yeah. Right. So then the next semester, I had to take them all over again, and I did the same damn thing.
Wow.
Luckily, they didn't drop me out of the classes. I was able to, when I did go back, make up like those other classes, because some of them were prerequisites. Yes. I can't even say that word.
Prereqs.
Yeah, they didn't keep me from taking them. But yeah, when I went back, I had a 0.7 GPA, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So I took one class at a time. I just took one class, kind of got myself back into it, because working full time, I was married. I thought, I'll try this out. I'll honor, Professor Mattson and kind of honor requests, and then started taking more classes to the point where I could graduate. And I don't remember which semester, if it was the second or third semester, ended up being on the dean's list until I graduated. So
that's interesting. I mean, again, that's kind of similar. We have such an amazing parallel, right? Because it's for me, I was the same way. right? Came into East. I was on academic probation, but the university looked out for us. They were able to see our potential. They were able to, feed that, look, you do have the potential. Come back. They took care of us, and given that chance, and I think that's where the how do I say this? The material is what really allowed us to thrive, because that's something that we were interested in. We were able to do well. The professors were great out there. And so I think that's where, we were able to do that. Like my last few years, up until graduation, I was on Dean's List as well, right? Because I was engaged though. So I got married in December. So I got married during finals. So what happened is that it was the semester ended. I think the semester ended. No, it didn't end. The semester was ending, right? So I finished. I had all my projects. I had to then after my last class, I drove down to Tucson because that's where we got married. That weekend I got married. That Sunday I drove back up because it was the last week of school. Then after last week of school, then it was finals, right? And then so I didn't see my wife for 9 days because she was down in Tucson. So I just did all the final week and finals, and then right after then in between that last week and that finals, we went on our honeymoon, and then I did finals. And so if I did that now, I probably would be sleeping the entire time because I'm old. Right. But back then, at least we had the energy to be able to do that. So
yeah. We were both kind of in a different stage of life.
Right.
The chaos is already starting behind.
It's all good.
But just a little older, I guess, a little wiser than some of the other folks
right.
we had in class with us. We weren't hanging around for class would be done and I was out of there. I had to either
you would have to disappear. Yeah,
it was getting home, and I was I was pretty newly married at that time, so it was still get home to my wife and let's because we were still beginning our married life together. So
of course, yeah. So you had to go through that. So that makes absolute sense, right? So yeah, for me, my wife was working a lot. Well, my fiance at the time was working on the right. I was working. So yeah, so it was a lot of going through and everything in there. And so it's been pretty amazing going out there. And this is actually, so before a little bit more about East real quick, but shout out to everyone in the chat. Thank you everyone for joining and be a part of it. As always, Bad Piranha gives you a shout out, Dan. I know you guys have talked a bit back in the day. So I know he is being part of that. I believe he may have the Distance Award shout out from, I think Hawaii is where he's at today. So
he actually moved to Florida from what
is that where he's at? Okay, got it. So
he has dual citizenship because he still has a place in Hawaii. So
there we go. Good. So that works out well. But I remember, I don't recall how we first met or reconnected, I guess I should say. But we were talking about this before the show, and it was actually a good memory because, I had been building this reputation up as Jedi ASU, right? So everyone kind of knew me virtually. But back in the day, at East, we would always be playing Quake, and so I wasn't Jedi by any means back then, but I had a Quake handle called Bantha Poodoo, right? So it's just Bantha Dung, and so because I didn't want to run around with any arrogance playing that game, but the nickname Bantha, Bantha, stuck, and so yeah, so when we first met, you kept calling me Bantha, which took me a while to let that gear kick in again.
Yeah. And the one class I remember we had, I don't remember I don't know if it was a writing class or like a technical writing or something that we had to take. The teacher was an older gal that I wondered how much longer she was going to be teaching. Remember her?
Vaguely, yes. I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember. I remember this technical writing class. I do remember. Gosh, I remember her. She was fantastic, super creative. Right. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. Absolutely.
She was cool, but I kind of wondered, like, how long has she been doing this, right? And how long did she keep going? But she was pretty impressed. So
She was, I mean, that was the one. I mean, I detest writing. And so I'm in the middle of developing something right now that requires me to write a crap ton. And I just absolutely don't like writing, but I come to it. But when I was doing that technical writing class, I loved her class. Damn, thank you for reminding. You know what it is? And that's another thing. Maybe I'm just going to have to try to get a copy of my, my transcripts, not only so I can prove that I had that ass of a semester, but also get an idea of who all the teachers were. Because like obviously Mr. Matson, I remember, and then George Mirza, yeah, he was more coding, and then there was they called her Dot. I can't remember her name. I can't remember her last name.
I think her name was Penny, but we called her Dot.
Yeah, because it was because part of her, or like her middle name was Dorothy or something like that. Right. She taught me Quark Express, which is kind of like, I mean, and I don't know why in the hell I'm still getting emails from Quark Express. They just started coming up for some reason. I'm like, man, I'm not going to use that anymore. But it's
Adobe Go Live or something that was the first. It was the first I think she taught that class too. It was like drag and drop web design.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, look at all this.
And you could just drag things where you wanted.
WYSIWYG was, all this technology. And then, I mean, it was incredible to stuff. I mean, they had licenses for Photoshop and Illustrator and everything else, but I think it was Fireworks, I think. That was an HTML driver one too.
Then who was the sort of the bigwig guy, the guy that was published? Why has his name escaping me?
He was a creative. He was a creative.
Jan Duff was one, and then the other guy. So Professor Duff, and then it starts as it's not Shanahan. It's something with the SH. I can't remember his name now.
So Professor Duff, I never took his classes. He came in, and all the classes he took, he offered. I was either had already taken or wasn't part of my, my path, if you will. Right. So it was very interesting everyone loved him though. I mean, it was interesting with him because I would actually kind of sit in on occasion because what Duff did is he did 3D modeling. Right. So he did a lot of the big one was 3D Studio Max. Right. So you had to actually go get the red dongle and plug it into the back of the machine and then log in and then use it. That was the only way to do that. But it was just, and then that was the first time. What else was it? That was the first time I ever used a zip drive, which had, I think it was 100 megabytes. And then the other one was, I think it was 100 megabytes, and then a Jazz drive, which was 1 gigabyte.
Right.
And they were
back then.
And they were two separate drives. I mean, it was just, they were probably the size of this washer, this coaster. But they were I think the zip drive was probably as thick as two of them. Right. And then the Jazz drive was the Jazz, and it was a disc. I mean, it was really just technically a big, what is it? A overblown floppy drive. But
exactly.
But when we were doing those big projects, you needed something that big.
Did you have any classes on the Tempe campus before moving out?
I did. So
did you knew the struggle with the computer labs there, and some of the courses that Matson taught were Mac based, right? So we had we'd have to go to the Fulton's, like the construction lab. Remember, they had two like really high powered Macs, and we were doing 3D modeling there, and you'd have to wait your turn to get on there because that was the computers that could handle even what the students in those colleges were doing.
Exactly.
So all night waiting your turn.
Just waiting your turn.
And then the other computer lab that was right in the center of campus that had the old plotter. And then another room where there was like a bigger room, and then they put some more plotters in there. But you put your work in the queue, and you'd sit there and wait, and it'd come out, and if you screwed up, you're like, oh shit.
I know.
And you have to wait like another hour.
That was it. That was the computing commons, which I absolutely love. You had your ring just go off. Did you need to go get the door? Or are you good?
Let me check. I think I hear a car out front, or it could have been somebody going by. No, we're good. Nobody's out
Okay,
there.
good. Yeah, because I remember, because again, at Computing Commons is still there, but I absolutely, so that is, for everyone on there, is the best smelling building on campus, and I don't care. You don't even, don't at me, don't fight me on it. I just, when I visit, I bring the Padawans with me. We go into the bookstore, do a little bit of shopping. It's like walk right into the Commons, and I'm just like,
Right.
and just kind of bask in it. So, but there was a plotter on East Campus, and I don't know where it was, but I did a few. I created a few things out there because AutoCAD. I was using the hell out of AutoCAD for a while there, and it was just, you would just go and you would wait for it. And there was one design that I had. I did a tile design, but it was teeny tiny, and the detail was intricate. So it kind of like kept doing the detail over and over and over, and then it like burned a hole. The ink burned a hole through the paper. So then I just had this design, and then just because it just kept doing it over and over and over. I'm like, man, I scaled. What is it? I scaled my bricks wrong. So all the things we learned, man. All the things we learned.
Then when we first got out to Polytechnic, they had the computer lab there. And I don't remember the brand of computers that were at the old Computing Commons, like the old ones. Like I think they still had like a beigeish color, and then like other color like frame around the front around the screen. So you get to Polytechnic, and it's these Dell systems, and I'm still waiting for some really nice Mac systems so we can kind of do the things that carried over.
Right.
Like, what is this Dell stuff? Like, are we going to be able to do our work on this? And I was just like, I'm not happy about it.
Those Dells were powerful, though.
Yeah.
They got a really good, because again, the campus was new.
Right.
The Dell, all the hardware was new, right? All the Dells and the PCs were new. All the Macs were a little bit older, right? So, and I mean, they were in only, if I remember correctly, the Macs were in one room,
right?
And then the larger common area was all PC.
Right. There weren't many, when I recall. So
yeah.
They were shifting everything over from Mac to PC, because we had been early on doing all the 3D modeling on Mac, and I don't remember the specific software, but then it was 3D Studio Max on PCs from there. So
yeah, and then you were fine using it that way, which was fun, because it was always cool to be able to kind of piece it together. I mean, I never did any super advanced type of designs in 3D Studio Max, but it was always cool to be able to just putz around with it. So I just liked more of I really took to a lot more of the Photoshop and Illustrator and all those other things. That was a lot more fun.
There was at the time when I was still taking the classes on Tempe campus, I went to it was just a computer store on Alma School in, I can't, if it was like Guadalupe or Elliott.
Okay.
I think it was Elliott. And yeah, Elliott. And it was an old, they sold Macs. It was like a Mac store, right? And
okay.
So this was, before the kids ever had the Apple stores. They had stores that just had, one little section of Mac.
Right.
And I knew they had a really powerful one in there. So I would go in there and do some of my modeling for school. So the salespeople that were in there were kind of like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, good. And I would be in there messing around, like, oh, that's really cool. And they would just be watching me, and like, they thought I was playing around. I'm like sitting there actually doing my schoolwork.
Right.
With a computer I could use. And
that's funny.
One guy was like, oh, we need you to teach, you need you to teach some people how to do that. So I got it. All right, pizza's good. My wife's gonna actually get it.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you. I know she's feeling under the weather, so we appreciate you.
So thank you, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you.
So they were saying, well, we want you to train people on this stuff that you're doing, this computer modeling and all that. I'm like, awesome. And like, it got serious. Like, we were talking about all this stuff, and I was going to travel a bit, and then all of a sudden the store shut down, and they just they disappeared. And I was bummed because I lost I couldn't go do my projects there anymore. I'm like,
yeah, I know. So would you ever? Because see, I never waited in line for a Mac at Computing Commons on main campus. I was always actually able. I'll tell you what. I did wait in line for a Mac. However, I did never wait in line for PC because I was able to do all my work at at East. However, I was doing something on a Mac. I can't remember what the hell I was, if it was typing or whatever it was. And this one guy, 2-3 seats down from me, was playing SimCity 2000. And I'm like, what how did you do that? And he's like, yeah, it's for one of his, it was for one of his classes, right? It's like it was a licensed version. It was for a particular class, and it's like, okay, well, I would love to get that login and the instructions. It's just like, oh, I can't because it's for class. I'm like, it's all good whenever you can. So then he kind of like, it got later and later, and he's like, all right, here you go. Here's a class. Here's a login. So I would play, SimCity 2000 for hours in the computing commons. Because it was 24 hours, it didn't matter, right? So I'm just getting lost in SimCity 2000. So it was just very cool to be able to burn cycle. So those were the times I was on a Mac, right, was to play SimCity 2000, not because I had to do the modeling, because that was anything else that I was doing. But yeah, gosh dang, thank you for that memory, for that creative writing teacher, man. I forgot about her. I wish I could look her up. Back
at Polytech campus, I had like a break, like an hour and a half break. I think it was Tuesdays and Thursdays for a couple of classes. It might have been longer. I would always go to, like you said, the cafeteria, which wasn't open very long, and they didn't have many selections. It was pretty. It was
horrific.
Yeah, so I would typically take food and I would go eat. I found this one it wasn't just an enclosed room. One end of it was open, but you'd step up, and it had a couple of couches in there and a little like a coffee table.
Okay.
In there, but in the summer, I don't know why, it was like the air conditioning in that room was perfect. I would eat, take a nap, like Tuesdays and Thursdays. That was my room. If anybody came in there, I'd give them a look, like, get out of my room.
Where was that?
So if you remember where the MU was, kind of in the center, if you were to drive in and where the student union was and the classes were up top, and then all the stuff was, remember, down in the basement?
Yeah.
It was the building across the street to the left. It was like, I don't even know what it was.
Was it to the north? Was it to the north?
The room itself?
Was it a building to the north? Okay. It
was a building to the north, but I can't remember how to even get in that room. I just found it one day because I was just walking around and I saw a TV on, and I looked in and I stepped up in it, and there's nobody in there. It's like, it's nice and cool in here. So I would bring my lunch on those days and just sit down and eat. And then I'm like, I'm just going to take and I would take a nap.
That's some wild stuff. I mean, it's just like, and the TV was there and the TV was on. So someone else had to know about that room to turn that TV on, unless it just was always on.
There were only like 4 people in the building at the time, right?
Right. It just like, no one could. We just really had, just all kinds of, just you would discover, because I remember, like you said, there were some buildings that were closed, but closer towards our senior year, there was one building, and I believe it was to the north of the MU there on East, and they opened it up, but it was really dark. But like you said, there was some rooms in there. There was like some arcade games in there, so you could walk around. But I mean, it was really meant to something to just hang out in.
That was the building. That was it.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Just like, again, I couldn't tell you how I found it. I just found it, and then every time I'd go there, I would go there to go to that room and just go hang out.
And you would, and again, it would be a rare instance that someone would come along. But I mean, it's just I think people were just looking for the room as well because they knew your secret. But if someone was in there, then they just kind of moved on. But it was just like, it was just like you said, because there wasn't a lot of houses out there, because it was all farmland, because it was dark out there, right? Because I mean, even in winter, I mean, I'd stay there till the lab would close, like 9 o'clock, right? So I'd be there, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's quiet, there's no one around, and I'm like, okay, I got to get the hell out of here before something jumps out and gets me.
That's why I ended up buying my first PC, so I could get off campus, get home, and do all my
So. Now, were you on dial-up at the time? Because the reason I'm asking is that's when cable started kind of appearing, but it was it was in Ahwatukee, right? It wasn't everywhere. So I mean, were you on dial-up still?
I was on dial-up. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, I remember wanting cable. So I didn't get my first PC till a year after I moved away. So it wasn't until I moved into my own apartment. When I got into my own apartment, it was a new development, new complex. There was cable in there, so I had screaming speed. I built my first computer, right? So I'm like, oh, I can do all this shit from home now. Wow. Right. So I mean, it was cable. I mean, it's not gigabit speed, but I mean, back in the day, we were happy with megabit speed.
And after I graduated, the company that that paid for my schooling, I had put in my 2 weeks, and I graduated. Well, didn't we graduate on the 18th or something?
Yeah, it was May. It was May 18th or something like that.
No, and then I left. I went the next day was my last day with that company because I'd actually gotten an offer at a startup, and so I was leaving to go to the startup. And so it was it went to that startup, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is you mentioned dial-up. I used to have to travel for that startup company, and
oh wow,
and so that was back in the old AOL IM days, and
yes,
there's an ICQ and all of that, and so in order I could always chat with my wife when she would get home from work while I was out of town, but I had to write her like 3 pages of instructions on how to get the dial-up going, how to open up AOL. Yeah. Sign in with her screen name and all that. So
it was because I mean, just doing that over the phone was, what is it? It was a lot. It wasn't easy. It wasn't straightforward. You had to be able to be. It was still technically savvy. I remember there was a few times after when I moved up here to the Bay Area for a job, and they would let us work from home. 2 days a week if we wanted to, but then I was living with my aunt and uncle, right? So I would mooch their phone line the entire time. So I was like, I'm just gonna take Bart and go down. Congratulations to Oregon State. They just frog stomped Oregon 75-64 in the Pac-12 semifinal. So that was actually outstanding. So so I mean, it's crazy looking back, all the things that we kind of had to go through, that we kind of just are so ubiquitous and easy to do now, right? But it's just how much of an effort it was, right? Because like I said, I didn't get I remember a few people having laptops at ASU. I'm like, holy shit, you fancy.
Right.
And then it's like, you have. Yeah, I'm like, geez. Well, usually it was usually what I would hear is that it's because they got some sort of scholarship and they had money left over. I'm like, damn, I got to figure out how to do. I never figured out how to do that, but anyway,
like I said, the company paid for it. I don't know why I didn't squeeze something like that out of there. Like, well, we're required to have laptops. I need some form of.
I need equipment.
I probably could have. I just wasn't.
And that's part of it now, right? It's like, okay, that's standard fare. It's like, okay, that's what you got to do. It's like, oh, here's some extra money for a computer. Oh, thanks. but the East was a good time. It was a very good time, and so, shout out to Crafty Creative. Mr. Kennedy out there, so much respect for the OG Pixel Man Dan, and that's I know I wanted to kind of get into some of the stuff that you've done from a graphic design. Obviously, many people are very familiar with what you're able to do. I think I'm wearing this shirt on purpose. This is your camo pattern, isn't it?
It is.
And so for everyone else that's on there, it was the 2019 USC game is that you designed these for, right?
That helmet, right?
That helmet right there.
That's right. I can grab it if you guys
bring it up so everyone can see it. Because I remember being in town for that game, and I saw it as part of Tim Healy's preview show, and so that's where they were at. Oh, look at that! That is gorgeous, and the whole team signed it, huh?
TD.
That is so cool.
Jane Daniels there.
Yep.
So yeah, that was that's the camo pattern there.
That is so awesome. That is a brilliant gift that they were able to do. So now this is kind of what I had mentioned in there. So you have been kind of working with Jerry and the rest of the team and the equipment team for quite a bit of time. He actually kind of shared some of the stuff that you did, but what are some of the stuff that you've been doing?
As far as the graphic, it's just more been fan art. So
Okay.
and that's how we connected. Really, I had taken a break from graphic design. I was kind of burnt out on it. Really, I just was.
Okay.
And I don't remember what year it was. It kind of clicked again, and I started doing things and making some really simplified graphics. And then I just kind of got into a groove. And there was one point where helmet concept became the thing I was interested in.
Yes.
I was doing 2D, kind of illustrated helmet concepts.
Right.
And then came across someone had brilliantly made a Photoshop 3D rendering for helmet concepts. And so I just started putting things together. And
Is that the template you sent me?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
That Riddell Speed Flex.
Yep.
And so I was just putting out, pretty typical standard combinations of things. And then Jerry with Sun Devil Equipment, they did the big pitchfork, right? So that was, that got me going, because I was like, wow, that's fantastic. What else could possibly be done? So I was just doing a bunch of concepts, and he reached out and he started connecting with me, in direct messages. Is like, man, you're spot on to the things we're thinking about doing. So
cool.
It's kind of from there with conversations, and over the years, it's been, hey, can you help us visualize some ideas we have? So I would do some helmet concepts and some other concept ideas to help them at least visualize. Because he puts a really nice presentation before the season starts. He puts it all together with what their plans are. And
it's a binder, right? It's a binder of everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He gets a lot of input from the guys that, all the equipment managers and all of that. So for the last few years, it's, hey, can you just help us put together the visuals on what we want to do? So it was the helmet for USC. And then last season, before the season started, he said, hey, I want to do some special gloves. And he said, I want to do the A Mountain. He had seen, the A Mountain was just something I had done for fun. It was then used by the Sun Devil Summit, if you remember.
Yes, sir. It's still still out there.
And then, so I said, yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to use the A Mountain, and it led to being used this past season. So,
right.
But as far as other stuff I'm doing, it's mostly just fan art. I kind of step back a little bit, because I almost feel like some of my ideas when I was creating them, they just didn't feel as strong as and maybe it was the different year we had last year, but I honestly just wasn't feeling it. So hoping to regain that spark again and come up with some new ideas and keep putting that it's mostly fan art, because I do it for me, I do it for fun, and I put it out there and share. If it translates to anything more than I've ever done at this point, great. Right. But I just love doing it because of a passion. It's a passion for it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's creative, and that's being able to get creative that way. And Mr. Kennedy had a question for you right there. Did you do the College Bar logo? And if I remember correctly, it's a variant of the Summit logo, right?
It is, and that's kind of we took that and applied it to college. So yes, I did.
Absolutely. And so, because again, that's one of the things I wanted, because I was actually lucky enough to visit with Jerry, and he gave me a tour of the equipment room and everything else and talk through their process. And that was of the night of the day of the USC game. But he also shared, how he did reach out to you, but also how you're able to be part of that binder at the beginning of the year. So you are one of the select few that actually knows the uniform combo for the entire season, right? So was 19 the first year you did that, or had you done it for multiple years?
No, 19 was really the first year.
Okay.
Well, in 18, so there was a concept they were working on in 2018 that was the military appreciation. That was the Pat Tillman color combo, the beige with the maroon.
Oh, the Ranger gray, the Ranger brown.
So I was actually asked to come up with a whole camo helmet design, and the one I ended up doing, they went a different direction. When the one they did came out so much nicer, but I was trying to work all the names of any Sun Devil that had ever served into the camo pattern. So from a distance, all you would see is a camo pattern, but if you got up close, you would see names in the actual camo. So it would have never translated to the TV or anything else. But if you were in person and you got up close, you're like, whoa, there's names all in the camo.
Man, that's such a brilliant, subtle look to it, because again, it would have been, what's the word? It would have been more collectible, because I think what they ended up doing is that at the back of the helmet, it was just actual white, a block of text, right, of people's names, which I understand was okay, but it's just, yeah, I think that's subtle. I don't know, do you still have that? You still have that design?
I have it. I'd have to dig it up, but yeah, I have the concepts.
I think you should. I think you should post the hell out of it, because I think people would lose their mind for it. Because
I'll have to see if I finalized it, but I think I had something that was at least an idea or a concept. So.
Even if it's a concept, I think people will be okay with it, because if someone runs with it, then eventually they'll let you know. But that was the other thing.
Just a shout out to Crafty Creative Dennis. I love what you're doing too, man. It's inspiring. So just to see the stuff you post, it's cool to know that there's another fellow Sun Devil that's out there contributing in a lot of cool ways too. So
absolutely, always love what he's doing.
Fan art wise, the stuff he does for a living. So I'm in awe of that too. So
yes, he's been brilliant. Always he's been attending a number of the summits later on, because I think you're able to join earlier on and he's able to join later on. But he's always just, I absolutely love what he's doing with the mascots things as well. So I mean, it's so cool that took off, right? Because I knew he had to kind of like slow it down, but now that it took off and that's doing well, yes, shout out to Mr. Kennedy. The other thing was, and again, I don't know if we may have had this conversation over the summit or anything else, but this flag. And again, I'm not trying to, I don't want to, did you say that you had a variant of this a while before, or was it the hand gesture that you did? Which one did you do that kind of eventually?
I did a variant of that flag, but it was by request.
Okay.
And then I did one that was distressed, that was out there, and I ended up seeing that distressed version out on a shirt that somebody did. So it was kind of like, nice of you to do that. So
exactly, I know that image.
I have my little history with shirts and designs and all of that, and it's opposite. This
exactly. Yes,
was just an idea. So the hand sign just kind of came to me one morning. I was out having coffee, walking around in the backyard, and I was looking. I don't know how I got onto it, but I was looking at some embroidered hats that had, I don't know if you know, the puff.
Yes.
Embroidery is really, really deep.
Yep.
And you can see different depth to it, and all this, shadow and light.
Right.
And so I was just like, the state of Arizona, and it just kind of came. And so I started playing around. I took a picture of my hand, and I that's a picture that I recreated of my hand.
Oh, got it. So that's the one then.
So I worked it till I got it to that point, and then I haven't done a puff embroidery of it yet, but I still want to, because I think it would have really cool features, right, with the light and shadow. Of course. I started doing that, and then so I had a big, this really big drive to want to sell my own line of shirts, and I went as far as getting a bunch of them approved by ASU licensing.
Okay.
So ASU trademarking. So I submitted a bunch, got approvals on a bunch, and then it was so now what? And the now what was, I would have had to go out and invest in a big inventory and sit on it and all that.
Oh, got it.
Well, that, and then you have to pay royalties. So royalties are crazy expensive up front. You have to pay this licensing, which is crazy expensive to the licensing body. Because it's not just ASU. There's a bigger company that manages all of that. So they manage, everything that gets licensed. And so
interesting.
You pay up front a certain amount of royalties. And then after that, once you sell to the amount that meets that, then you pay over and above on everything else you sell. And just for me, I was confident in my designs, but I wasn't confident on sitting on a whole bunch of boxes of shirts.
Of course.
So at one point I actually did put the forks up out there for a very brief time. They were for sale. I don't know how many of them. I can't remember how many of them sold.
Right.
But ASU jumped on that pretty quick. So I got letters from. I ended up. It's a funny story. I'd gotten 2 or 3 cease and desist letters, and then I was talking to the lawyers with the bigger licensing company. I had several phone calls with them.
And Mr. Kennedy saying it was a CLC is the company?
CLC was yeah.
Okay. So you got this letter, and you're talking to an attorney.
So the one guy I was talking to was really cool. I was just asking him all kinds of stuff, and he couldn't neither confirm or deny what I could do, but he was subtly giving me. So that was back in the day where the New Devil's Order, right? When I had that.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yes.
So he basically was like that. That's fine. We can't really do anything with that. And then he just said, I said I can do color schemes. He's like, oh, well, I don't. I'm like, okay, I'll just do what I want, right? So. But yeah, I got very familiar with some attorney's letters, and I have a good friend. I don't know if he's watching, Lance. If you're out there, Lance Venable. He is a patent attorney, and so he was
okay.
He was gracious in consulting me in some things, and we had some serious discussions, like some of the things I thought, how is it the ASU owns, and I was doing a lot of trademark lookups,
right?
Especially for that hand sign that I had drawn. There was one that was out there that was their variant was during that there was a branding called It's Time, if you recall, and it was more of it was more an oddly shaped hand, and it was just a hand by itself. It didn't have the state behind it. Okay. So all of these things I was asking Lance, there's all these things that I could possibly say, no, that this is original and it's not, but
right.
I just thought better of it. But
man,
I might try to revive that design in use somewhere. I still have a long-term goal of getting that design on licensed apparel. And so
okay.
I had an advocate for me in the college, in the bookstore, in the ASU's campus bookstore.
Oh, okay.
Sophie, she reached out and said, hey, I would love to see this in there, but it just never worked out with their buyers and me having the right, producing it and all of that. But I still have a sort of this goal one day to have it in there and go walk in there and see my shirt. I have design. I've been commissioned to do other ones that have been in there, but
right.
But it's not my own, right? It's not like my original stuff.
Exactly.
So I'm reaching out to another company and see if there's a willingness to collaborate.
Okay.
So we'll have to see. They may ignore me. They may not. You want me to shout them out?
Yeah, why not? Because we can show them the video later on.
Yeah, State 48. Let's do something together.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, State 48. That'd be very cool. They have a brilliant line of clothes there too.
I love their stuff. They do a lot of great stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
If they're willing to talk, I'm willing to we maybe put something together. So
that would be good to see that on their stuff, because like I said, I think one of them, I think the owners, one's a Sun Devil and one's from the other school, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think Mike is an ASU alum.
Right. I think so. I think that's what I remember hearing. But yeah, that was actually, interesting to see, especially your, the stuff you've been asked to do, especially the NWO, because that one was actually very interesting, because you kind of did that one as a fan art and kind of on a whim, right? But then all of a sudden, like Coach Graham and everyone else, the rest of the university kind of picked it up and made it official, right?
Right. So I got contacted by recruiting, and they said, hey, can we use this? I'm like, by all means, use it. And so I was making a bunch of graphics for that, I think it was a couple of years. And
right.
So, and yeah, it was being talked about and all of that. And yeah, so that was kind of fun.
Getting a lot of attention. Absolutely.
Actually, I think I don't remember if they put it on their trailer or not. I almost want to say they did.
I think they did, right? You'd have to ask him when he comes back online, because I think that's interesting to have that. They have a ton of stickers on that.
They do.
Man. So I'm hoping my 42 Social Club makes the trailer.
Yeah, they put
this next season.
I did that one thing with Kyle Poole where he was, that the catch. He's got his hands up in the air and he's got that wildcat. So I had made a graphic of that. And that's on the front side of their trailer. So that's
cool. Got it. See, that's very cool. Now, the other one that I remember was the Jail Mary. We must have talked about like 5 different variants of stuff that you went through, right? And each one got like shut down.
That's where Lance and I had a lot of conversations, because again, and I get where they were coming from. It was, you can't use, there's so many rules that they have. You can't use someone's name or likeness. And I didn't want to jeopardize anybody's scholarship or their eligibility.
Of course.
But it was kind of like I went through these really silly rounds of like, I went so far as just having a set of hands and and I just made it this generic, like, a play that took place that we can't talk about kind of thing. And then I did some fun shirts called the Hail Mary that
I have that.
Yeah,
I have that one. Yes.
Hail Mary shirt spinoff. So
yep, I remember. So the other one that I enjoyed that you made was, it was just, we were talking about it actually. I was in Orlando when we were talking about it. It was a play diagram. It was just, you had the circle for Burko here, and then you had Jalen running the route.
Right. That wasn't mine.
That wasn't yours? I thought that was yours.
Get the company. It's like they were like, their name was like Replay or something like that.
Okay.
That was theirs, though. So that was their original. But I had conversations with them too, because we were talking about the same thing, getting shut down kind of thing. And
they got frog stomped quick. I mean, it was like,
So the creators of that, we had conversations back then about that. But that wasn't my design. That was, they had their own series of those that they'd done.
Yeah, they did. They had like the, what is it? They had a bunch of them. They had a bunch of them for the NFL.
Accurate reception, all that.
That was the one they did. That was it. There's a bunch of them in there. And so that's why, and I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's great. By the time I got around to buying one, they had them shut down. But there was one game I went to and there was a bunch of people still wearing them. Right. I'm like, oh, that's a great shirt. So again, I had an idea for a shirt, but I just wanted to do one. So I actually had to call ASU to get permission to make this one shirt, because it was a Keith Poole, with his arms up like that. And I'll have to show you the design one of these days. But yeah, so it was like, I think we talked about it too. And you're like, yeah, give this dude a call. And I talked to them and said, yeah. And he actually said, yeah, you got permission to print one.
Right. Yeah. For yourself.
I'm like, okay. But I mean, I was like, yeah.
And then for the Hail Mary, as soon as Jalen, his season was over and he had already, because he had declared for the draft, I was good to go. I could put it right back out, and I did. And it's still out there. People, I had a purchase, I think this year somebody bought one.
They did. Okay, good.
Yeah. And it was crazy for a while that I would do a Google search and people were, they either got a hold of just the fan art I created or maybe saw the shirt design, but people were printing their own from it. I saw a few that they had made their own shirts off of it. A lady shirt that was done, a few others. I'm like, I know I didn't make those and I didn't put them out there. But
right.
Somebody's out there wearing a knockoff Hail Mary shirt.
Because they were able to get your graphic and deal with it that way. Oh, that's.
I don't know what resolution Twitter puts it out there, but I'm doing like 2,000 pixel by 2,000 pixels.
Yeah, they're massive pixels.
I'm like, it's just for fun. If you want to use them, whatever. I mean, it's fan art. I'm not trying to make a buck off of them, and I hope nobody else is, so we can just all enjoy it or whatever. But so
my whole thing is that I'm putting my graphics out there and enjoy them. Just please don't make more money than I am.
Right.
If you're making more money than I am, then I'm kind of pissed, because I'm like, man, why am I not doing that?
Yeah. And so, as I said, I had been burnt out for a while, and I'm almost jumping back to our ASU, Polytechnic days. There were times where some of the art I was, the things I was doing, I remember we were sitting in class, and I don't remember what class it was and who the teacher was, but we had to present our work.
Yeah.
And so they would put it up on the screen, and we'd all sort of evaluate it and critique one another. Right. And one dude just flat out laughed at something I did, and I was like, I'm like, all right, whatever. I was kind of older. I'm like, whatever. You're younger, kind of a little insensitive or whatever the word, inconsiderate. Years later, I'm sitting in an office that I was working out of from friends of mine. They had their own graphic design company, and I was starting out doing web design. And in walks this guy, and he's looking for work, and it's that bastard that had laughed at me. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any opportunities.
Oh man, it's a small world, man. I mean, yeah, we're all Sun Devils.
That cliche is true.
We're all Sun Devils, man. But we'll remember that. I got something else like that. It was a digital print. It was a digital print class, and we were only the assignment was to just do a one-sided 8.5 by 11, but I ended up doing a 11 by 17 double-sided fourfold, just because again, because we were older, we had more time and more focus, so we were able to put more time in the same amount than everyone else. And I just remember this one kid just like, what did he say? That's a little bit of overkill. I mean, I got an A and he got a C, so I was happy. Right. It didn't matter.
Well, and, we were in that point of our lives. It wasn't just do the bare minimum to get the project done. It was actually, really investing yourself into the project too, to walk away with that experience of knowing, all the hurdles and all the things you end up going through to a finished product.
And there was a sense of pride, right? Because you knew that, hey, look, I have this opportunity. I'm gonna put everything into it. Right. I'm gonna make this one happen. So no, it was absolutely what you could do and everything else. So again, shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone in the stream. Really appreciate all of you. It is Dan, Pixelman Dan Trujillo is my guest. And again, a dear friend, one of my oldest friends from the ASU days. And so we're just chatting about, graphic design. Obviously he show that helmet again. It's like, this is again from the 2019 USC football game. He was actually responsible for the digital camo that you can see along the top. And it's actually the same thing on my shirt as well. So, and his is signed by the team. My shirt is not. So at least you were able to do that. How did you pick did they send it to you or did you get it picked up? Did you pick it up?
My wife actually went and she bought it. Didn't ask where, but she bought it as a gift. So
wow.
Funny story with that. She said, "Hey, can you watch the kids? I have to go run and do something for something related to our some activity I was involved in." I'm like, okay. So she comes back and she called me back out to the kitchen and she said, "Hey, can you grab that blanket off the couch? I need it in the kitchen." And I'm like, "Whoa, a blanket? That's the strangest thing, right?" I grabbed the blanket and I start walking, and something had caught my eye. Turned back around and she had it sitting there on the couch.
That's cool.
I was like, oh man. So that was a very awesome moment.
Yeah, that's actually very cool to be able to have that. And like I said, the whole team's on there, and you got, coach, is the coaching staff on there as well, or is it just all players?
Coach Edwards is on there. I'd have to look, but there's Brandon Ayuk. He only just put BA, so I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, right.
Frank Darby. I know that there's Eno Benjamin. Coach Edwards is right there.
Yep.
I'd have to look around further to know all the coaches. So
it's funny too, because it's always HEE, and it's just HE line because that's how. Again, I don't know if I showed you this one. I got from doing the Sun Devil tailgates, right? Yeah. And so it's like HEE. So I'm like, okay. But see, this one was actually it's personalized, right? So I can never get rid of it. It's
special.
It's an heirloom, right? So I mean, I
have a marker here somewhere. I'm gonna put my name on.
Yeah, you should put on there 2 pixels. Coach, can you say 2 Pixel Man did? But that's very good. And again, I know you got. I wanted to be sensitive of your time, so I know everything's coming up, so we won't do a bio break out there. But always,
we can. Actually, now we're good. Since my wife's I'm good. I'm not. I was trying to be mindful, but I'm having too much fun now. So.
That is good. So now, let me ask you this: so, did you go to ASU as a freshman, or did you transfer in, or how did you start? Okay.
And I actually went to high school right down the street, Tempe High, and then went to ASU as a freshman. And then I had a rough first semester. It was tough. I went in. I didn't start out in graphic design. I started out in aerospace engineering.
Ah, yes, yeah.
Some classes that the professors said, we are intentionally going to weed you guys out. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, right? And they did. It was hard. I had
they did it.
I was lost after the third day. It was
Wow.
And I had two friends from high school that were in the class with me that they were their GPAs out of high school were higher than mine. And the three of us would sit in class looking at one another like, what is going on? We're lost. So that class, it's funny to talk about, having taken naps at Polytech. That class turned into, we would all meet just so we could hang out for class. We'd sit together. One of us we had a revolving responsibility, round robin of who was taking notes. The other two of us would take a nap, right? And we would just, and there was at one point the material was so hard. I remember taking a test, and I didn't know any of it. I was just like putting down nonsensical answers. And one point I had fallen asleep during the test, and I wrote this big pin blob from my hand kept moving. And so the class was so tough that I think the highest grade in the class was like a 40.
Wow.
Right? 40 was the A. And every time we had testing, we would be looking like, who's the dude getting the 40? Because there was like kind of a gap from the guy who would set the curve and the rest of us.
Oh, really?
I ended up getting a C in the class, but then I was just like, this is really hard, right? And I wanted to be a rocket scientist, but damn, rocket science is hard. So
it's no joke, man.
I haven't even gotten into the real stuff.
Yeah, because that was mine. I started mechanical. Right. And so it was all that stuff. As soon as we started getting into the more specialized. So I think it was electrical engineering 201. That's when I'm like, yep, I hate circuits. I don't need the whole labs. No, it's like, nope, circuits can kiss my ass. And then I loved physics. Actually, physics 310 was a quantum mechanics class. I loved it. I did shit. I had a shit grade in it, but I absolutely love the concepts and everything that we were talking about.
Yeah, I love all the physics classes.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was amazing, but I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to be applicable to anything. So, yeah, that was all of them. Yeah,
I transferred out of aerospace engineering to aeronautical engineering technology. I thought, cool, this would be really great. And then the classes I was taking in there, I realized my path was going to either be, go to like flight school and become a pilot, which it's kind of like, that might be cool, but it still wasn't my thing, or be an airplane mechanic. And I'm like, I just don't know if I wanted to do that. But I had some really cool experiences in there. We got to build airfoils and test them in wind tunnels.
Oh, that's cool.
That was awesome. So I really loved that.
Where was the wind tunnel? That was on Maine, wasn't it?
Yeah, on Maine, in like the tech area it was off of University and what was was it Lemon? I don't remember the other one that ran north.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't remember the name of that street, but it was University, and then there was that street that it's the street that if you stayed on it right behind Manzi.
Yep, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know the name. Someone will mention it. But yeah, exactly. I know, and that's where it used to be. I don't think it's there anymore. I think they moved it because
they had a smaller one.
Okay.
They could roll it around, wheel it around in the class, and then they had the bigger one. You could always see it. It was external to the building. It was.
Oh, got it. The other one was Thermodynamics 330. That was another one with just really just like, this is not for me. I mean, I struggled. I mean, I wasn't going to quit, but I'm like, man, that was not it. But yeah, that was. But I mean, so now what dorm were you in, or were you living at home?
I actually lived at home, so I would just commute every day. Yeah.
Got it. How much was your parking pass back in the day? Do you remember?
I don't know why the number. I can't remember. I know it's not $35. I know it was a heck of a lot more. It was like probably $135.
Yeah, but I mean, still $135 for a parking pass on campus.
Right.
That's a month now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. So no, it was just. Yeah, because when coming to ASU as because I was a transfer, right? So I lived off campus. I never lived on campus. Never did the dorm life. I was actually always at the quads on University and Rural.
Okay.
So I'd always ride my bike in, do all that and everything else. But there was the engineering library is where I did a lot of my studying. I can't remember the name of that one, but I just walked by it when I was there. But yes, Andrew Taylor saying it's Veterans Way.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Do they require freshmen to live on campus at least 1 year now?
I don't know. Given how massive ASU is, I don't know if that's a requirement anymore. I think if we were smaller or maybe private, right, then maybe they could force that. But I don't know if they would do that for incoming ASU freshmen because you have all the campuses too, right? Are you living downtown? Are you living on Main? All right, I know there's West and there's East, so I'm not exactly sure, if that is a requirement. So, I mean, I have, it wasn't for me. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to live on campus, live off campus. I mean, my first roommate was a bouncer that I knew when we were bouncing down in Tucson, and then he moved up. And so I'm like, hey, you need a roommate. And so, yeah, I was his roommate for an unfortunate 2 years, but I didn't have to pay it all.
The bouncer. So
yeah,
another parallel, right?
And that's actually very cool, right? Because it was another story that we're everyone else. So we were both bouncers back in the day, and it was actually pretty cool because I think this was at a summit. You shared this. I was bouncing at Jets and Sticks in Scottsdale, but you were bouncing at one of our favorite haunts, which was
Rock and Rodeo.
What is there right now? What's there now?
I haven't been by there in so long. The only other time I went back there, it had changed to, because that place was so big, they ended up partitioning areas off where they had different types of music in different areas.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember that.
I think it was something like Graham Central Station was what they had named it. But yeah, I was back there when that place opened. I got a job there as a bouncer when it first opened.
It was so, I mean, that was the place on Wednesday nights. I mean, there was no other place we'd rather be, was go down there and just get thrashed on a Wednesday night. But it was like we were talking about this, and there was this one beer tub girl that my buddy Mark, who is just a dear friend now, he was actually in my wedding, but he was absolutely obsessed with this. I think her name was Brooke. I pinged him. I don't know if he's replied to my text, but she was absolutely stunning. And so, yeah, so it was just, but it was, like you said, it was a literal warehouse.
Right.
I mean, it was just a warehouse that you would walk in, you would pay and just walk in. And then it was like a massive dance floor. Right. And then it was just stuff. So you would just make laps. Laps.
Every now and then you'd either be stationed in one area, sort of by the restrooms and the rear bars,
right?
Or you're just walking around, and you just be walking around all night. And I grew up listening to country music and all that, but when I got that job, I had to go buy some boots and a cowboy hat. And I'm like,
that ain't cheap. That's not.
No, and I was dating Jennifer at the time. We hadn't been married. She's like, I'll make sure you get something that you're not going to look like a fool, right? And an idiot. I don't really know anything about cowboy hats or boots, but at least I want to look the part.
And I think I told, so yeah, I mean, that was such a great place. It just, I mean, and none of us, well, actually I take that back. A lot of us weren't two-stepping, but if I was asked, I was able to. Right. But I mean, obviously, I was in a long distance relationship because Mrs. Jedi was living here in the Bay Area and I was still there at school in Tempe. And so if I was asked to dance, I could do two-step if I, and not kill someone doing it. But, we were really just there to hang out and do a midweek, what is a word? I want to just, absolute debauchery and then somehow wake up the next morning and be okay. But, well, I don't know if we were okay, but, we recovered a hell of a lot faster.
Wednesday night that actually catapulted me back into graphic design because I was working that job. I was, very far disconnected from what we had gone to school for. And it was one of those nights I'm walking around and I hear a friend's voice, and he's just, obviously he's drunk. He's like, hey, and I'm like, it's my buddy Rick that I had classes with. I don't know if you remember Rick Trimmelon.
I do, yeah.
So Rick comes up and he grabs me, and at first I'm like, someone's grabbing me.
Yeah, you gotta kill someone.
He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, working, paying the bills and all that. And he said, I ended up connecting with him and ended up getting like a temp job and that led to a full-time job. And so my first graphic design job was working for the Yellow Pages, designing ads for the Yellow Pages.
Right. Okay. I remember this. Yeah.
So Rick's the one who got me the temp job, which led to my first real graphic design job. So,
oh, that's so cool.
I mean, stars align. Here I was, he's out partying. I'm a bouncer at a bar, and it brought me back into the creative world.
Absolutely. And shout out to Mike Wren, Peggy for ASU. Lovely to always see you on the show. And I think that's going to be the name of our band, Two Fine Young Sun Devils. I think that's probably what we should come up with.
I'm not a fine young cannibal.
No, exactly. Carnivore. Well, we won't take the cannibal portion, but right. Exactly. But that was, yeah, again, it's just always, that's why I just, absolutely loved reconnecting with you, via social media, because as we got to talk, right, it was just incredible the parallels that we shared coming up and that we're able to, just be a part of and sharing the passion for ASU and ASU football and everything else. But just like I said, you were an inspiration to me as well, because I always saw your graphics out there. And so I was so focused on doing a lot of the videos, but it just gave me the opportunity. It's like, you know what, I can contribute to that ecosystem and be part of it. So that's why I'm excited for you to get back into it. I mean, it's just like, I think if you maybe did something with it, because that helmet concept with the camo with the names in there is just a brilliant idea. I think people would just absolutely eat it up if you were to post it.
I'll dig that out and I'll post that.
Okay, got it. So now, what was the one graphic that you created that you thought would take off but just didn't go anywhere?
The one behind me there with the forks up. So
that the hand gesture one.
Yeah, that's
okay.
You create something and you have that pet rock thing. Like, hey, this is my pet rock, and
yeah.
So I don't know. It kept me up at night for a while. Like, I need to do something with it. So I tried hard to. Okay. I got it approved by ASU, and I got a variant of it approved. And I met with several different, screen printing and all these other companies, and I just never really pulled the trigger on it. So I was looking for other ways. I've presented it to several other companies, and it still hasn't really done anything yet. But I'm not gonna let it just fade into the sunset quite yet. So
it's there. There's an idea there, right? That's right. Gonna sit. Now the one next to it. Did you design that one as well?
I did, and that was so. I have a bunch of designs that I did for a company that was an apparel company. Long story short, they make, or at the time they're really that company's gone. They made shirts that were from recycled plastic.
We talked about this. Yes, go ahead.
So I was connected to them by Sophie at the ASU bookstore, Sun Devil bookstore.
Right.
She had bought products from them before. They kind of had talked about, we have someone who's done some of our designs, but we're just not happy. She put me in contact with them. We, between that company and we hit it off pretty well. We made a lot of designs I did designs for a lot of schools, including the school down south. And
oh, wow. Okay.
So we presented a lot. So we presented to the big boys. I mean, we had stuff, not me personally, but the designs I did were up in front of Fanatics to be put out on their product lines and all of that. And so it just never came to pass that any of those were used. But I have I have a library of like this one here. I'd have to see if I can move it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at that one.
So a lot of those were going to be just different designs on apparel that would either be big or small, and however we wanted to use it. So they're on the wall now, because at one point when we moved in here, my wife said, pick some of your favorite designs and let's put them up. So they put on. So at some point, my kids may inherit that, or who knows. So
right, exactly. Or you'll autograph them and then we'll auction them off.
Yeah, as long as ASU doesn't yell at me about it.
Well, I guess if you make a big enough donation eventually, then they'll be able to.
Yeah, maybe.
So then let's see. When we graduated from East, we were there and we did that ceremony. Did you walk?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I'm gonna try to dig out an old photo I had, and I thought I shared it once, but I'll have to see if I can find it.
Okay.
My wife was behind where we were sitting, and she said my name, and I turned back and looked, and I almost think in the photo I'm turned, but you're sitting in front of me. Somewhere in front of me in the photo.
That is that's uncanny. That's uncanny. Okay, now you have to. Now you have to dig that photo up.
I almost thought for sure that you were in the photo too, like just paying attention to what's going on.
So I would love to see that, because it would just be one of those serendipitous type of things, because we have a photo of Padawan 1 playing at the Children's Science Museum here in San Jose. But there's this little girl like next to her, kind of playing, behind her or whatnot. And then her dad is standing, and he's on his like BlackBerry or some other thing. And it wound up being some of our closest friends. We didn't know them at the time. It took about 3-4 years later for us to meet them. And now they're some of our closest friends, but it's like, and he's still on his device. He's still on his device now. But it was just, like you said, it's one of those serendipitous things. So I can't wait to see that freaking photo, because it's just always cool to be able to see that. So, right. Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I can't wait for that. So again, shout out to everyone in the chat. Really appreciate you being part of this conversation and actually just hanging out with Dan and myself. As always, if you have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat, message them to us, whatever you need, and also go ahead and make sure you have yourself a drink. What are you drinking, by the way?
I'm a simple guy, so just Dos Equis.
That works. I mean, that's more than me. I'm doing water because I have to go for a
ride tomorrow.
I think I'm gonna have to do 25 miles tomorrow. So I'm like, I'm gonna be. How about you? Because we talked about this, right? You love being in the gym rather than being at home. So are you going to the gym more now? Or are you able to find someplace?
A couple days a week. That's about it.
How long has it been open for you?
Several months. But it was, you wear a mask and you try to, you can't really distance because all the equipment is open. You just sit next to people. But so when everything was shut down, I invested in, it was hard to get equipment because everybody was grabbing it up.
Yeah, everyone was doing it. Yeah.
But I got some, pretty solid resistance bands, a couple of kettlebells.
Okay.
And some other stuff. And so it was just made do, right? And just, we ended up spending a lot of time in the parks, which was fun. So
that's cool.
Ended up playing kickball a bunch and doing all that.
Oh, right on. Because see, kettlebells I love, right? But how about resistance bands? Have you been able to kind of like get the same, not necessarily the same workout, but at least still be able to do a solid workout with resistance bands? Because my thing is this, I have some resistance bands, but I don't know if it's giving me enough resistance to be able to build muscle. If it
doesn't feel the same. It's kind of like real easy until you get to the end of that. You know what I mean? You almost have to find the right amount of tension right when you start doing whatever the movement is. That's the thing I noticed was some of them just felt they were soft at sort of the beginning of the movement. Right. And then it got harder as you kept pulling against that rubber band, essentially. Yeah. It was workable to just be using the muscle but not building it. So
yeah, see, that's the other thing, and that's why, like, when I was going to the gym a lot, I liked using TRX. I liked using the TRX band. So I may have to. So I'm like, I know the exact spot. I'll put it here in my garage so I could do it. So maybe that's probably what I'm going to have to do. Just go ahead and do that instead.
So the riding, are you riding just to set yourself a personal goal, or are you shooting for some kind of an event?
Couple things, right? So it is a personal goal, but it is actually for the Pat Tillman run. I'm actually not doing the Pat Tillman run because my knee is garbage. My right knee is garbage. However, it's in great condition now because I've had some physical therapy. I can walk without limping. There's no pain in there. So it's, it was probably a 3 from a pain. From a pain level, it was probably a 8 or 9. Right. I could barely walk sometimes. And so now it's non-existent, pain isn't there and it's good flexibility. So that's really why I'm doing it. Right. But also I have to ride my bike. So me and Rob Rothfarb, and I think actually Kyle Dodd, we're going to do a 42-mile ride on the Pat Tillman on April 24th. So that's why I'm doing it. I'm building it up, because during the week I usually only do like 10 to 12 miles a day, which is, you know, yeah, it is, right? I shouldn't say it's not a lot because I'm used to it, but now on Saturdays it's usually my big ride to be able to get used to it, because I did 23 last Saturday and I was gassed. I was gassed. So I'm like, I'll probably do another 23 or so tomorrow. But that's the goal, right? Is not only because my ultimate goal for this year was to do 2,500 miles, which is 40 miles a week, right? And so if I think it's 40 miles a week, maybe 60. But when I saw the Pat Tillman's run, like, you know what? I'm going to do 42.42 miles on the bike. And so that's why I'm building up towards that. So, and if there's anyone else out there that wants to be a part of it, just shoot me an email or DM me or message me on thetwitter.com and we will get you a part of it, because I told Kyle Dodd about it last week and he's like, I'm going to join you. Cause I mean, he does a shit ton of miles. I mean, he's like, he goes for like 20-mile rides a day. And I'm like, whoo.
Yeah. And Lance, I don't know how much he rides now, but I remember he was doing that tour to Tucson or whatever, the 150.
Oh yeah, right.
So he's an avid rider too. And back in 2011, I got ambitious and thought I was going to venture down that physical challenge of doing triathlons. And so
oh damn, okay.
Got some friends that said, hey, let's do a sprint, which is a very shortened version of the real thing. And we were all training together. I love the riding part. Riding, kind of the most fun. You use that mechanical advantage when you can, and you just kind of cruise along.
Was it around Tempe Town Lake?
No. So this one was in Scottsdale, but and it was like, I don't remember all the distances. I think the bike was 12 miles. The run was like it was like a 5K, like 3.1. I don't remember what the swim is. And this is when I realized that I like swimming pools to splash around. I'm not a swimmer. I put it in my mind that I'm gonna swim, and I'm gonna force myself to swim and all these things. And so the leading up to that sprint, so it wasn't open water, it wasn't a swimming pool, and so you had to share a lane with somebody. So when you take off,
I see what you're saying,
and then you'd come back on the other side. And so leading up, like the last few days, I was as mentally prepared as I could be. I didn't want to swim though, because I'm like, I don't like swimming for any other purpose to swim to somewhere maybe a beer or something
to cool off. Absolutely
not a swimmer. Remember the Rocky movies where he's like where he was trying to swim and Paulie's like, you know, that's why your nickname's The Rock, because he just was like, I get in the water, I sink. That's it. But
right.
I hold myself up to breathe. So leading up to my dad's like, you know, I said, yeah, my event's coming up. And my dad's like, just kind of like, don't drown in the pool. And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's my turn to get in the water, and I start swimming and I freeze up and I can't swim and I can't breathe. And I'm like, shit, I'm going to drown in this pool in front of a bunch of people. I literally just freaked out and I couldn't understand why.
What happened?
I don't know. Like just something, I don't know if it was just all the people around and stage fright, who knows? So I'm trying to swim, like swimming like this really awkward stroke. I just was making it to one end, like wheezing, and like the other people are coming and I got to go. I can't hold
Yeah. People are waiting for you.
To one side or the other. And I was probably like 90% done with the swim, where I finally got comfortable enough and was actually swimming. And I'm like, crap, you know. I got on the bike, was cruising around. I was on a mountain bike. I was passing people that were on road bikes, you know. So I'm on a mountain bike. This is my favorite part. And then I got to the run and I'm like, okay, this sucks too. So I did that one. I thought I was going to get into doing triathlons and all that. And I was in that mode where I went and volunteered at the Ironman. I had friends that were running it.
Wow.
So transition area. So I'd see my friends come in, I'm cheering them on. And I was really trying to get myself motivated to say, you know, this is, I'm watching it, and I'm being just as everybody that passed me, I was just very impressed with these people that just had that ability to just push through all that.
Right.
And I had done my sprint. I'm like, I'm good.
Yep. It's like check. Okay. I did it.
I can cross that off. I did one.
My sister did that for a few years. She did a couple. She did that one triathlon around Tempe Town Lake. She did 1 year, and then she did another one down in Tucson. So, yeah. So she did a couple of those. She never, and I think she may have injured herself or something, but she was able to. That's why she never did a third. But she would. But I have her triathlon bike that Padawan 3 rides now, and so it is the lightest bike I've ever. I mean, it's incredible how light it is, but I mean, it's obviously you can just speed, but the tires are really narrow, right? Where they're the road ones, and then Padawan 3, he has a mountain bike, so his tires are fat and knobby, and then mine is like, and then I have a hybrid, so it's in between the two, which I was like, okay, I'm happy with my hybrid because I could have gotten a big old mountain bike with like the shocks and everything else, but I was like, I'm not going to be going on trails getting all crazy like that. I'm just going to be doing bike paths everywhere. So that's all I needed. And so I think I put in 1,000, maybe 1,200 miles on it last year. Nice. So yeah, so that's why I'm like, okay, I got to push myself and double that amount. The stretch goal is 2,500. I didn't ride once this week just because I don't know if I was in the mood or because it was raining or just, I wasn't in the mood.
I mean, it's just you just kind of getting a ride, and you asked me about going to the gym. That's my solitude. Even there's people all around, but I'm not there to socialize. I'm just there that's my
earphones on.
That's my time away from the screens, from just daily life. I go to the gym a couple days a week, and that's my me time, I guess. I don't.
Okay. And that works, right? For me, it's about, I enjoy the ride because not only I'm outdoors and I'm getting some sun, I can have a couple podcasts going, and I'm feeling it, and just I'm away from the house, right? I'm just like I said, no screen time, even though this is actually on, it's actually on my handlebar. So I'm actually looking at it in a way, right? But I'm not, scrolling through and everything else. But it was just, that ride. So I have several paths, but there's one that goes north and it's paved all the way. And so that one just was a little bit harder. There's another one that's like, it's dirt. It's like loose dirt, but it's still paved. It's still flat. And then it's paved the majority of the way, and then it goes dirt again. So that one is probably what I'm going to do tomorrow, is probably do that. And because I got my hair cut, I have my biking jacket, I have to put my hood on, and then I got to put my helmet on, or else my head will freeze. So, because I did that because it's been cold as hell these past few weeks, and so now I'm like, okay, I got to do that and put it on and protect my melon, because I did that one time. I was right, I'm going on. I was going to sweat out, and I thought I was going to be a badass, and I'm like, I stopped probably a mile in. I'm like, forget it. I got no shame. Okay,
we're just out there doing our thing.
And I have the gloves, right? I have the pants and everything else, so I'm okay. So a lot of my stuff's protected, but my hands wouldn't warm up, right? Because all the blood's rushing to keep the head warm. And it's like, okay, I did that, and I'm like, ooh, I can feel my feet, I can feel my hands, I'm set, I can go. And it was only a mile in, so I'm like, man. So, but I'm still trying, and this is something for you. I keep asking everyone. I'm still trying to figure this out. But if you ever stumble across this, what I'm trying to do is while I'm on my ride. This is, tracking where I'm going. I'm trying to find a way to be able to kind of transmit my location to a map so people can watch, me on my ride that day. So I don't know if it exists.
We use something for that. We use on our devices. It's called Life 360.
Yeah, I do that to track the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you could use that where somebody could, but I don't think you can share it out because it's more like your own personal circle or whatever.
Exactly. That's why I'm trying to figure out, because it's got to be something out there. I just don't know where it is. Yeah, I just don't know where it would be and what is else and everything else is going on. But yeah, and it's actually good. So this is actually pretty cool. My mom called me twice. I'm glad I told her I'm in a show. But yeah, see, 90 minutes goes by quick on a Friday night, man. And I'm so happy you were with us. And everyone else on the show, in the chat, thank you so much for being part of this. As always, make sure you post your questions and everything else. So Dan, I usually ask these questions of my guests, obviously, and I like to spark some conversation from there, right? But one of the questions that we always ask, I don't know if you've heard this one, but please share with us your greatest or favorite story from a restaurant. You know, let's say you're wherever it was, and it doesn't have to be something super extravagant. It could have been something very small and intimate. What comes to mind for you?
There was I think it was was it an Olive Garden? No, I can't remember. Why can't I remember the restaurant itself? It was on Mill and University. I want to say it was, I can't remember the restaurant. I don't think it was an Olive Garden. I used to take friends there to this was after sort of that weird relationship I was having. I told you that ended up screwing up my GPA.
Yep.
On Friday nights, I would take friends out there and say, I'm buying dinner. I'd grab a couple of friends and I'd buy dinner. And then one night, a friend of mine was hanging out, and man, it's going to bother me that I can't remember the restaurant.
So the only thing I can remember, there's Black Eyed Pea that was there. Black Eyed Pea used to be there. It used to be, maybe it was an Applebee's, because that was the one in the Tower Record Shopping Center. I remember that.
It was. So it could have been that on that front corner where Tower Records was. It was out to that corner.
Yeah, it's right. It's like right across the way from what the CVS is right now, right?
Applebee's or whatever it was. It was one of those type of chain restaurants.
It was a chain restaurant, right? Black Eyed Pea was there for a little while. I remember them being good because Red Robin used to be. So you're talking about the southeast corner, right?
Yes, southeast corner.
Yeah,
so
yeah. So that was part.
It was. I can't remember.
It was a chain. I know what you're talking about.
It was Chili's.
Oh, Chili's. Okay.
So
there we go.
We'd go to Chili's, and I'd take a friend, and he looked like Richard Dumas from the Phoenix Suns at the time, like spitting image of him, right? Just not as tall.
Okay.
So I was out with him, and I'll never forget. So we're sitting at like a high top in like a bar area having dinner, and this little kid walks up, and he's just kind of just looking up, and I'm looking at my friend, and we're looking at the kid, and he's looking, and I'm like, he wants your autograph. He's like, the kid wants your autograph. And so he signs something and hands it to the kid. The kid walks off. He's like, I said, what did you sign it as? And he's like, my name. And his name was Keith. And I'm like, he thought you were the basketball player from the Suns. He's like, well, I gave him my name. I didn't write anything else.
Did he? And the parents come up or anything else?
I think I remember the kid kind of walking away like,
that doesn't look like him.
That doesn't look like what I was for.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so good, man. Just and it had never happened before that. Even though he was a spitting image wherever you went.
We used to go to Club Rio a bunch too. So
Club Rio.
He would get swarmed a little bit. So I think maybe it was there too. So.
Gosh dang. So we're gonna do it. So we're gonna do a show. So Kim Desimone, if you are out there, this is gonna be a show dedicated to you someday. But she sparked a question. So she's new to the ASU community. She works actually for Ray Anderson, but she's from the Bay Area. She actually graduated from San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly SLO. And so, and she's actually from, around near to me. But anyway, in the Sun Devil Summits, we're always talking about some of the places that we used to go to, right? And drink and have a good time, right? Club Rio was one of them, right? That everyone, so I mean, it's all I remember is that it was big and brown. And it had a dance floor in the middle and 4 columns that had a bunch of speakers. and then you would just walk around and they had like bars all around it, but
All
that was
around.
about it.
Yeah.
But that was really it. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was freaking.
I had friends that were bartenders there, so I,
Oh, you would
get some treatment.
Yeah.
I walked home from there once through the river bottom. That was bad.
Did you do that too? That's freaking brilliant.
If you didn't do that, you never went to Club Rio.
Yeah, it's just like you can't claim you've done it. See, I did that too, and so
stumbling over all the highs and lows and rocks and whatever's in the river bottom.
It was unbelievable doing that. And so Gus Farwell, he was a QB there during the 96 team, and so he was like, yeah, it's like if you walk the river bottom of Rio Salado, but he was like, those rocks were jagged. Like if you didn't do it right, you can end up dead,
right?
Or something that was broken. And so, I mean, especially before or after Club Rio visit, right?
I wasn't doing it fully sober, so that affects things,
And I mean, it's just like we're just such nincompoops too, because there was a perfectly good bridge that was just so easy and safe.
But yeah, you didn't want to walk that extra distance to get to. You just walked straight out and then down, right?
Yeah, you were just like that way. You just went down. Exactly, that was it. So that's another thing. So I guess we're gonna have to. You know what? This is what we're gonna have to do. Okay, so we're gonna have to. We're coming up with a shirt that says I walked Rio Salado, and then like have. I don't know if we can have Sun Devil Stadium on one side and Club Rio on the other, but we got to figure a way how to do that. So I think that's going to be nice in demand. So other than Club Rio, though, what was some of the haunts you would go to while you were there at Tempe?
The Dash. I mean, the Dash was pretty close to. I was in a fraternity too, so we would go.
Oh, okay, got it. So you'd be able to do that.
So we just those, and there was a bunch of places that would come and go, right? Penny, or any coin, any drink. So you line up all the pennies
and just go
tip them well and all that. But Club Rio mainly, and then the Dash, and then that was really it. So then when my wife and I were first married, we were young, so like Blue Iguana.
Oh, right.
And then so we used to go to. Why can't I remember the name of it now? So she and I would go to Club Rio too, but Blue Iguana. I'm trying to think of where else we used to go. You had named one of the Jetson Sticks. Would go there every now and then too.
Yeah.
So. But,
that was one. That was see. That was if I didn't work there, I'd never set foot in that place because Jetson Sticks was way, way outside my budget.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that's not where it's like you said. It's like if there's $5 pitcher of Long Island iced tea that I can get at like say Maloney's or Gibson's or something else on Mill. That's more what my budget was.
Crazy question for you: when you were a bouncer, what was one of your craziest or wildest stories of something that happened?
So it was Super Bowl week. So I worked at Jetson Sticks. It was Scottsdale, so it was Super Bowl 30, and so I met Magic Johnson. I met Hootie and the Blowfish. I met Brett Favre before he cleaned up. I met Franco Harris. Nice. I met Michael Jordan. It was crazy insane it was insane as to how many people I met. However, just getting to know and meet and talk with all these people didn't compare to my very first night. I was delegated to. So it was 2 bars connected by a hallway. Sticks was a pool hall. Jets was the dance live band portion. It was the stage. It was a DJ booth, dance floor, and a stage. And then it was an open bar. And then you had the patio for the bar. And then it backed up to an alleyway. And it was an exit gate that I had to watch. So I was just sitting there. And so, we have the earpiece and they're just, my roommate at the time, he's just raging how we're, at capacity and so on and so forth. So we couldn't let anyone in, but I'm just at this stupid ass gate that, you couldn't let anyone in. So I'm standing here and these 6 dudes, they were big guys. You could tell that they were players. I didn't ask them much, but they had a Southern accent. And so it's like, hey, bud, how much is it to get in? And I'm like, man, it's my first night, and we're at capacity, and if I let you in, my boss, who's my roommate, he'll have my ass. So they all kind of oh, it's cool, as you understand. So they kind of like turn their backs, and they're all just talking. And then he comes back and he shakes my hand like this, because and then when you shake the hand like that, they're palming something. And I shake his hand and I shake his hand and I take it, and it's $100 bill. All 6 of them gave me $100 bill, and I'm like, right this way, gentlemen. That was like 2 months of rent, so I'm like, so I didn't care. Yeah, I'm like, yep. I was like, yep. It's like, Atlanta, Georgia loves you. Well, I love Atlanta, Georgia too, because it paid 2 months of my rent, and it didn't matter because it was such chaos. So it's like they're like, yep, so that was, of all the things. I mean, this was another. I don't know if so the other one. This one isn't as fun as that one, but the general manager at Jets and Sticks, we got to know him because we were going there. So we invited him. We were just getting crazy. Yeah, come to Jets and Sticks. We'll let you in. We'll take care of you. Blah blah blah. And so he came with his girlfriend, and so they were there. They're having a good time on a Saturday night. They're hitting it pretty hard, and she got into a back and forth with someone, and so I grabbed her, right, and I lifted her up and was taking her out, and she wiggled, and this is the one time I've ever bled, but she wiggled and boom, just propped me in the lip with her ring, and I'm bleeding. And she's right in the front, and I dump her out, and I'm like, and the cops are right there, and I'm like, and I'm telling him, it's like, okay, get your girl and get out of here before they see this, because I don't want you guys to get in trouble. But yeah, but of all the fights, of all the incidents, of all anything, that's the only time I got punched and I bled was because of that one lady. But when women are fighting, man, it's no joke. It's like,
ladies, I got to tell you, they're wilder than the guys.
Yeah, because
I've had to carry, trying to get them out, like holding them out as far as, because they're scratching at eyeballs, they're scratching it.
They're going for it, man. It's just like, because it's like, fuck, 2 chicks are fighting. Right. It's like, damn it. Because then they're like, oh, this and that. And everyone's like, oh, it's like, no, it's not that glamorous. No. It's dangerous as hell. It's dangerous. Because with dudes, you can pin them down. You can talk them down off the ledge. You can calm them down. It's like, cut it out. And then they'll kind of chill out. But if it's women, forget it, man.
You just kind of had a tackle first policy, drag everybody out and sort of.
And that was the thing, too. I guess you could. Because, because it was in Scottsdale and the owners were there and everyone was, had a crap ton of money. We had to be a little bit more delicate. Although I do remember one of my buddies, this one guy, and he was just, you knew he was a poser, but this dude, he dragged him. And then when he got to the door, because I think this guy spit on my friend, he kind of like squatted and then kind of like power lifted him, and so you just see him kind of like in slow-mo through the air fall on his ass and on his back because he just pissed my friend off so much that he was built as it was. So for him to do that, we're like, yeah, that made our night. But anyway, so there's always some sort of good memory in there other than the monotony and the hearing damage that I have.
You remember Rock and Rodeo didn't have like a VIP area because it was just this big old.
Yeah, it was just a big square.
So Charles Barkley walks in, and I don't remember. He had 3 or 4 other players with him, and the manager comes up. He's like, we need to make an area for him. So we grabbed a bunch of bar stools and just made this weird shape, and they just kind of hung out there, and we all just had to stand around him. So we weren't really charged much of the other area. People were trying to get to him, and this was the middle of the floor. And one guy grabbed one of the other bouncers, was trying to get past him, and he like broke his pinky finger.
Oh shit!
So,
man,
we grabbed that guy and picked him up and took him out a side door and threw him in a dumpster. You're out of here.
Oh man, that's just like, but the crazy ones always come back. They come back a little humble. It's like, did we throw your ass in a garbage can? But he's back.
You had like some regulars you always had regulars that caused trouble, right?
Did we have? No, you know what it is? Our regulars were kind of chill. We didn't have I mean, they would get wild and drunk and stumbly and everything else, but our regulars were, if I remember correctly, they were kind of chill, if I remember. I mean, again, it was in Scottsdale, right? So it's just everyone was just trying to impress everyone else. It was just like LA light, right? So we were kind of like, we didn't get a lot of the troublemakers and fighters were just kind of like the random person
Right.
that was in town for whatever reason, or just, got an influx of money and was able to just kind of flash it around while they were there for one night. But it really wasn't. The regulars were actually not bad. They had their own spots, they had their own routines. We knew who they were. We'd take care of them. So it was always cool. But I mean, and it was very curious experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything, though.
It's great people watching.
It is, right? Because then you get to understand and know, and it's crazy too, because like there was two regulars that would come in. These two girls, they were regulars, and they always would hang out, and then all of a sudden I had them in a summer school class. They didn't know who they did not acknowledge my existence. It was crazy. And it was actually one of the first. It was in a classroom, but had cameras, right? So it was actually kind of interesting, because when the teacher would like take a break, it's like, okay, we have like 5 students attending this from, on TV, so there was one time I was like, does anyone want to come up and talk? So I did. I filled for about 15 minutes, just talking, engaging just kind of like this. I was like, all right, that's cool. So it was like, if I remember, it was a classroom with a camera, and then it had the full control room over here and everything else. I even asked someone to call in. So yeah, but again, I just remember the regulars. They didn't acknowledge me. And it was interesting too, because there was another one called Empire that was on 24th and Camelback.
Okay.
And then that one they would bounce back and forth between those two clubs, right? So Tuesdays was at Jetson 6, Wednesdays was at Empire. Thursdays it was like a mix, and then Fridays was Empire and Saturdays was Jets and Sticks. So you would see the regulars just bounce back and forth. I'm like, I don't know how they did it, but somehow they funded and bankrolled it. So I'm like, whatever. I was just trying to make some money, because there was no way I'd be able to do that. There'd be no way I'd be able to do that. So
Did you ever ask specifically to be put on gate duty again?
yeah, but I mean, I would do it, but then you'd be bored out of your mind, because no one would interact with you. It's like,
a once in a lifetime.
It was a once in a lifetime, because it was packed. Because then if you're there, you're in an out of the way space, and everyone looks down at you. It's like, oh, what did you do? Right. You're in the corner with the dunce. He's like, oh yeah, no. So none of that. It's just like, but that was one night when it happened, and I was like, yep, that was my story. But I did love taking driver's licenses. I absolutely loved taking driver's licenses, because then it's just like, I must have had a stack of maybe 50 of them, and I just.
Did you guys have to like photograph them? So when I was working the door, you would look at it, you had to put it underneath so it could take a photo every single one, or I think it was just like a running camera. You just put it underneath. Sometimes you're like, nope, gotta go, get out of line.
Yeah, no, we didn't photograph them. I always had a routine where I'd grab it and then I'd bend it, right? I'd kind of like hold it and then bend it, and so see if it would split, and if it didn't. But then the other one is I found this. I caught this one from in Illinois, and it was gorgeous. What they did is that they were able to peel the laminate, and then they scraped the number, so they adjusted it. And so I was running my fingers, and I felt an indentation, and I'm like,
didn't feel right.
And there was just a little hole that they changed the last digit in their birth year, and I'm like, I got to keep this. This isn't legit. I mean, it looks fine, but I held it up to the light, and I'm like, I'm keeping this one. And they knew when they got caught, because they never made a fight over it.
Right.
They just like, oh shit.
And we had sheriffs out in front, so all I had to do is go, you can either let me have this, or we can go talk to these guys over here. And I was like, step out of line and go home, go somewhere else.
That was always it, and it's like, but there was always times when you get overridden when it was a group of like 10 of them. Right. And then they would like, nope, let them in. All right. Well, I'm going to keep this anyway. So, but yes. So another question that I ask everyone, other than your family, other than your friends, other than your home, other than your children, what is your most treasured possession?
That's I don't know.
And it doesn't have to be extravagant, because like Lindsay Campbell, she has on her profile, she's wearing this leather hat. That's her grandfather's hat, and so she wears that one. Cameron Cox, 12 Sports, he has a photo collage that his grandmother made, and it was in her house until she passed. So he has that as well. So for me, I have a little Star Wars movie projector. So it's a little handheld thing where you put in a cartridge and then you can see the actual movie in there. And actually found it recently. So the film is faded bad, but I absolutely loved that thing because it's actual film from the movie.
Yeah, I have a bin of memorabilia from grade school up through high school. So there might be something in there that I don't know.
Okay. Is it like art, or was it stuff you made, or what is it?
No, just random like stuff. Like, you collect little pendants and banners and all kinds of other stuff. I don't know. I don't even know if that's really it. I really don't know. I don't know if there's anything material that I could just go, yeah, this is my, and then it might just be, the collection of things I've created from a graphic design standpoint.
Okay.
Right? So technically it could be one of my little, backup drives or archive drives that has all of my art that I've created. So.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I recently deleted the 2016 and 2017 football seasons off one of my drives. So I found some software, so I'm recovering it slowly but surely. Oh, wow. So yeah. So, and I have a QNAP NAS device right here, but one of my drives is dying. Oh. So yeah. So I have the games and all my photos on 2 6 terabyte drives that I have separate, and they're put away. Yeah. But I got to fix that NAS drive. So anyway,
yeah, it sucks to lose anything that you've spent your time doing. Any
yeah. So yeah, so that was actually something that I was like, okay, I got to make sure I have it backed up 3 ways. So my last question for you for the evening, my friend, and hopefully this is actually one that I ripped off from Rob Lowe. It's actually a question that actually gets asked of people that are interviewed in Vanity Fair. Yeah, in Vanity Fair. And as far as I know, I don't think you've been in Vanity Fair yet.
No.
Okay. So
here's your. You kind of alluded to it. I am in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yes, let's talk about that one real quick. So it's actually brilliant, and I meant to talk about that when we were doing out there. So that's actually fantastic point. So you actually are directly in the College Football Hall of Fame. Share that for those who don't know.
So as we were talking about my contributing to Sun Devil football's equipment team and Jerry, when he asked me about the A Mountain logo, I gave him that, and he did have Adidas make the gloves for them. So unknown to any of us, when Jackson He got in the game and actually scored a touchdown, that was historic in college football. So
absolutely.
I didn't ask Jerry the story. I would imagine it went something along the lines of the College Football Hall of Fame reached out to him and said, hey, it was a very historic thing that took place. Could we get his uniform or something? I would have to ask Jerry to find out. Of course,
because that jersey's brilliant. I mean, having his yeah, absolutely.
So I saw something else posted. I just happened to watching my timeline, and I'm like, wait. I saw the case and I saw the gloves and they showed all the things that, everything that went with it. I'm like, wait, that's the A Mountain gloves.
That's right. That's your design.
that's something I did that's now in the College Football Hall of Fame. So
for eternity.
Right.
For eternity. So that would be actually a very cool trip for you and your family. It's like, that's me. I'm part of that. That's awesome.
And another side thing, there was some designs I did through that company that I was doing the shirt designs for. They were in the Kennedy Space Center visitors complex for a while, kind of front and center, because they were highlighting the materials that the shirts were made out of. So for a while I was like, back when I was thinking back my dreams of being aerospace engineer. So I'm like, I never quite got there, but I still got I got a part of me that was part of NASA for at least the, not directly NASA, but the visitor center.
You got to the Kennedy Space Center, right? Oh, that's awesome, man. I hadn't heard that. That's very cool. I love it. So thank you for reminding me about that, because that was definitely one important story to share, that you are absolutely in the College Football Hall of Fame. This question, though, I'm going to ask you 3 things, right? Of these 3 things, which one of these 3 things would you want to see and why? And if you have seen one of these things or multiple of these things, please detail. So again, if you had to see one of these 3 things, what would it be and why? A UFO, a ghost, or Bigfoot?
I think I've seen a ghost. So
awesome. So then you got 2 options. So
typically La Llorona is who I think I saw.
Bullshit.
Okay, so and I got what might be my little, I didn't see a UFO, but I'll jump to that after.
Okay. Damn, 2 for 3, kick ass.
So Bigfoot haven't seen, but that would be the one thing I guess I would want to encounter.
Yeah, that's what's left.
Right. So back when I went to an elementary school in South Phoenix. It was Roosevelt Elementary. It's since been leveled, but it was probably the oldest elementary school down in Phoenix.
Okay.
And I was in, I think it was the third, well, no, it might have been first grade or so. The way they had the school laid out is they had different playgrounds for different age groups. So for kindergarten, they had certain areas, and then the older kids were, on a almost completely separate side of the school.
Right.
Separate. So it was when I was in the younger years, so it might have been first or second grade, there was a boys and girls restroom. It was a freestanding building. On the left-hand side was a door entryway. It was the girls' side, and the right was the boys. And you would walk in, and it just went straight back. So there were there were the sinks and all that, and then the stalls and the urinals. Although I guess they were just stalls, because I don't know if you had your urinals for little kids. But one day there was screaming and screaming just coming out of kids running out and screaming and around this restroom. And, so we're all like, what the heck's going on? And so I hear people, kids screaming or whatever. Someone's like, run and go grab the teacher. And so somebody had ran to grab the teacher. I went in to go look to see what the heck was going on. And when I walked in, I could see a figure that was facing the door, but it was half in the wall and half out. And so I
wow.
saw like a hand going like this, and there was a kid stuck in the back corner that couldn't get past that hand.
Oh God!
Crouched down and is screaming, and this kind of going like this, right? And I just freaked out and ran out screaming. And then the teacher came in, and I think
how old were you?
Male or female. Teacher came in and looked and saw the same thing. Right? They saw it. They legit saw it. That if I recall, either that evening or the next morning, they put chains and locks on the door so we couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
Within a week, the building was leveled.
Holy shit!
Yeah, they just leveled that building.
Wow.
So I always say it's La Llorona, right? It's because
it's why not? I mean, so how old were you when this was?
Second or third grade. So
holy shit, you've had that for most of your life then.
So and so my mom and I talk about a lot of stuff. But she says she sees ghosts and other stuff.
Really?
We had stories about that. But
is that the only one you've seen?
Living in her house that I ended up when I lived with her for a while, but apparently the ghost was gone. But really quick story: she's laying in bed at night, one night. Her husband was traveling. She could hear something walking across her house. She's laying at a waterbed, and she said she's laying there, and she was on the side of the bed where she could see footprints walking past her.
Oh, wow.
And it moves, and there's an ass print in the waterbed.
No way. Did the water disturb as well?
It moved.
Oh gosh, dang, man.
So, but yeah, so my other, and so I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born.
But your mom is sensitive this way, right? Like you said, she's had a number of experiences like this. Okay.
Yeah. So I always felt he was around though, like around me. I just
okay.
So one day I'm just at home. I go to the bathroom and I sit down, and for some reason I'm just like teleported, whatever, to this room. It's a room, big, huge room, wood floors, 2 chairs with spotlights on both chairs, right?
Okay.
And I just naturally walk in and sit down in one chair, and my grandfather, who I never met, sits down in front of me.
Oh, really?
We're talking like you and I are talking now.
How did you know it was your grandfather? I mean, had you seen pictures or?
From the only pictures I'd ever seen.
Got it. Okay.
So he's talking to me and asking me about life and the things I want to do and all this stuff. And I'm having this full-blown conversation with him. Turns out my mom had come to the door because I was living at home. And for 2 hours I'd been in the bathroom. I was speaking fluent Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, right? I was fluent Spanish, having a conversation fluently. She's just listening. My mom's fluent in Spanish.
Wow.
Conversation with someone in Spanish for 2 hours.
It was an actual true time. It wasn't like, like a time compression where it's like, okay, it was a blink, but felt like 2 hours. It was a true 2-hour window.
Yeah, it was a conversation I had with my grandfather, who I never met. And I worked at a photo developing lab in those years. And I worked in an area where there was a lot of heat. From like they would, they had chemicals that had to be heated and all this stuff.
Okay.
Every now and then, the area I would work, I could sense him coming.
Because it would be cold, or what would it be?
Something cool coming. So I'd say hello. It's like, hey, Tata, how's it going? And he would come up, and I'd feel him like give me a hug.
Oh, that's cool.
And then just pass through me, right? But it would happen. Yeah, it was wild. I could feel it coming. It was colder than the normal.
Of course, yeah.
It wasn't the AC. It wasn't anything else. I knew it was something.
And so how long? How long did that? Is it still going on occasion? Has it stopped?
No. So that happened my whole life. There's another time I think he saved my life. 2 times. I'll tell you those really quick.
Okay, yeah, please.
One time at the same photo developing lab that I was working for, I was on the ASU campus, and I was leaving to go to work. The girlfriend I had at the time, she was driving. We were both trying to get to work. We worked at the same place. You remember, if you know, is it, you know how Apache, how it wrapped around to go up to Mill?
Right there on Gamage, in front of Gamage,
That left-hand turn to get on to Mill Avenue.
To south,
or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we were waiting to turn, and there's some bicyclists going by. But we're waiting and waiting. We're going to be late for work, and we're waiting to turn, and there's some bicyclists, and then we're just waiting, and they finally cleared. And I was a little pissed because they were going slow, and we turned. Yeah. And I looked to see them, and they were gone. Right, the bicyclists were gone, just totally gone. I couldn't see them. And I kept looking, like I was waiting to see if I catch another angle of where they were, but they were.
Yeah.
So we're going down Mill. We go down the underpass, and we're coming up to Broadway. As we come up, I hear this huge boom. This pickup truck had been T-boned in the intersection there. It was in the air. It was spinning in the air.
Wow.
So in slow motion, I saw it go flying. It was high enough to go over a car. One of the wheels went across the hood of that car and left a big scrape, and it pushed that car back. But where it actually came down and landed is where we would have been sitting to make a right. We came up just those seconds enough to not be right where that car would have come down.
It would have come down on you. But the bicyclists were nowhere to be found. But it was enough for you to just. That's why you said that. And that was the first time, though. The second time.
That was
Or was that the one?
I don't know. I don't know in what order those happened. When I was really little, though, I was climbing a tree, and I was told not, like my dad was like, don't climb the tree. My grandmother used to watch us. It's like, stay out of the trees. I'm like, okay. So we would do it anyway. And they had been, I don't even know what type of tree, but they were freshly pruned, and there was at least one branch that when they pruned it, it was very sharp.
Mm.
And so we were in the tree, and my grandmother would look out for us, when she knew my dad would be coming to pick us up. She said, your dad's coming, get out of the tree. And I slipped trying to get down, and I slipped, and I was falling towards that, and it was heading right to for my stomach and my rib cage. I was literally falling towards it. And as I touched it, and something grabbed my shirt and pulled me backwards off the tree.
Really?
So it still scraped my stomach.
Of course.
I had to find the scar, but it scraped pretty hard, but something pulled me back because I was falling this way.
Yeah.
Somehow I went backwards. I fell all the way flat on my back, which hurt like hell, but something pulled me off the tree before I impaled myself on that.
Yeah, a complete different direction and momentum. Just pulling you back.
When something grabs you. It wasn't just like I bounced off. It was something just pulled me back.
Thanked you.
Yeah. So
wow.
And then later, so after that one incident where the car landed after I had my conversation, I lived in San Diego for about 9 months in the early 90s. And I was coming back from a job interview from like Escondido back to San Diego where I lived. Being an idiot, I was driving really fast. I was racing around with a guy in a Corvette. I'm in a little Honda CRX. I don't know what I was doing, chasing around. We were just having fun. We were going really fast, at least 100 on the 5.
Wow.
We're just kind of zipping around, which is stupid, right? So I'm following him for a little bit. He's following me, and we're doing all this stuff. At one point, I'm following him. He just brakes really hard right, and I'm faced with this car that's in front of me. It's a 60s model Ford Fairlane, a tank, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I get on the brakes hard as I can. The nose dips. I'm getting closer and closer. Like that Ford Fairlane little logo looked like a billboard because it got huge.
Because he was so close. Oh my gosh.
All of a sudden, the steering wheel starts to shimmy, and the car starts to spin, like just fully spinning in the center of the I-5. It's a 5-lane highway. There's spinning, right? I'm over and like my upper body is in the passenger seat, but something held my hands on the steering wheel. And really? And then I felt something grab even tighter and just correct the car. And all of a sudden, and then it pushed me and it pushed me back up, like because I had been leaning down and now I'm sitting up.
Wow.
And I'm looking up now, and I'm the lane I started in. I'm in that same lane again, and I'm going in the lane. I didn't go anywhere side to side. I just ended up now I'm going perfectly straight in the lane, but I'm backwards. And I'm looking at the traffic behind me. And I remember there was a family, like a husband and a wife or a man and a woman, and an old Ford. Remember the Ford Aerostar vans?
Oh yes, exactly.
Like they're, saucers for eyeballs, right? And they're just like, oh, and because I had just been spinning.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So I put my blinker on and I ease over. I scooted the car back around and I got off on the Torrey Pines exit. And I went to the Torrey Pines Country Club parking lot, got out and was shaking, like, oh my gosh, I'm waiting for the smoke to pour out. Nothing. Like the car was fine.
Wow.
That weekend because I had just gotten that car. So that weekend I used to come home like every 3 weeks. I would drive home to hang out with my mom and I would go to our favorite restaurant, which was Serrano. So we would go there.
Oh, okay. So
I came down that weekend, and my dad's like, well, let me check out this car that you got. And I was waiting for him to find all kinds of problems wrong with it, right? And oh, it's great, oil, all that stuff. And he's put new tires on it for me, and I'm like, whew, got away with that. So
that's brilliant. And so, go ahead.
So all those things happen, and you ask if it still does. My sister kind of knew, my family kind of was like, there's, we think Dan has like a guardian angel or something. And so they always kind of felt that way. Well, when I met my now wife, my grandfather just kind of went away. I think he knew I was
interesting.
I never had any of those same experiences that I had before that.
Oh, interesting.
They all ended, and so I think he's good. He's got a new angel. So
that is so cool, man. And so, do you dream of him or have any other
Never since.
Not since.
Ever since I've met Jennifer and we started dating, it was kind of like he's like, we're good. I was your angel. I protected you, and now I'm going to let you protect your wife and your family. I'll let you take over.
You're good, mijo, because I earned my wings. Because I was like, you were exhausting.
Yeah. And
that
then
is wild. That's so cool. So cool.
So I'd love to like see a legit UFO, but in one of those times I was coming back down from San Francisco.
Okay.
I was working at a photo developing lab, and it was always late hours. I would start at like more madness. Sorry, I would start at about 5:30. It was not, we kind of fluctuate when we'd start. Work till sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning.
Okay.
Sometimes I would get off earlier on Friday so I could come down to back down here to Phoenix. So my routine was I'd go grab my clothes. There was an In-N-Out that was on the freeway entrance ramp. I'd hit that to get food for the drive.
Okay.
So I'm driving, and there's the mountain pass between, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but there's the tall mountain pass between here and San Diego. So I'm coming down from San Diego, and it's cold. And so I used to like to drive it when it's cold with the windows down, sunroof open, just because it was chilly. It kept
keep you awake. Yep.
I'm driving and I'm just looking around. It's pitch black. I'm the only car. There's no cars other than myself either direction on the highway. I'm like, this would be the perfect time to see a UFO. And no sooner did I said that out loud, all the lights on my car start flashing underneath the dashboard. I have never seen lights ever before or after. Lights flashing under the dash, all kinds of weird stuff in the car. The tachometer never changed. The engine revs stayed the same, so the engine never sputtered. But all the lights were flashing. The dome light, everything, everything that has some form of illumination was just blinking and lighting up.
Wow.
The lights were, and I'm like, I yelled out at the top of my lungs, "I'm just kidding!" I pulled the windows up closer, and as fast as I was doing 120, 125. As fast as that car would go, I was hauling out of there to get down to the valley.
That's incredible, man. I mean, it's just being able to go through all of that. I mean, definitely a blessed and experienced life with that. But I mean, I haven't seen anything. But I mean, it's just like I think the ghost especially the ghost story that you just shared is wild. Yeah. Especially that very first one. But I mean, it's a beautiful story being able to have your grandfather watching over you for such a long time. Obviously, you were around and he was there with him, but now you have your other angel.
Right. I agree.
That's awesome.
My other forever angel.
Absolutely. Now, do your kids talk about, seeing ghosts or anything or having experiences like that?
When they say, they'll jokingly, like not jokingly, but they'll say stuff. I'm like, so what do you see? Nothing. But okay, so here's my nephew.
Okay.
One of my uncles had passed, and so it wasn't when I was sitting next to him, but my mom was telling me that at my uncle's funeral, and we're all there. Mm-hmm. There's they had the urn and they had a photo of him. Yeah. And he was little. I think he was like 2 or 3, maybe.
Oh, he was tiny. Okay.
So he's like, Nana, what who is this all for? And my mom said, well, it's for him. See him in the photo. He said, no, he's standing over there.
Oh, got it.
There's other stories. He's seen stuff too. And it's funny because my wife, she's like, she doesn't, she's like, you guys just let that stuff in. And I'm like, not really. I wasn't letting anything. It's just, I don't know, It
happens. And I think that's an interesting point, right, too? Because, I mean, I think it's just because we always see that type of thing is thinking of letting something in, right? Because, I mean, you always, especially from a ghost perspective, you always hear about can they come in and this and that and everything else. But I think if it's family that's already there with the right intention, they're always there to be watching over us in some way or some form. So,
but all that wicked stuff, I'm just like, I will, whatever I'll pray over our house and whatever in my own way and just pray for protection and all that. But UFOs, I mean, have you ever seen the movie Enemy Mine, Lou Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid?
Yep.
Okay. So here's my theory. And I think it was part of the theme of that movie.
Okay.
You had 2 beings from different worlds because at that time they were in battle. These different,
they were at war. Uh-huh.
We're at war. They happen to be stranded together, if you kind of notice Lou Gossett Jr.'s character, and I forget the character's name, but he would always have that little his Bible, right?
He did, yeah. He had his little thing
and all that stuff, and you had the Dennis Quaid, who was the human. That was kind of like, so what are you praying to? So my big sort of theory is, here we are on Earth, we're made in the likeness of God, and we are in the form we're on. But who are we to limit what God's capable of? So here are all these
absolutely.
And even though they may not look like us, or they may not be made in His image, but why don't they still know this same God of the universe, right?
Exactly. I agree. No, I am down for that as well, because like you said, it's who are we to say and limit that type of mindset? But also, as I said in Contact, if we're the only ones here, it's a terrible waste of space.
Right. Well, aren't they saying that now they're starting to release more and more information that's been collected over the years about encounters, and especially through the military? So
there was a Freedom of Information Act that, let's see, where are we in March? It came out in October, I believe. And there's a couple sites out there that has every single document thing. And this is separate from Blue Book, because Blue Book had its all kinds of other things. These are additionally tracked and classified documentation that actually just recently came out. So yeah, there's all kinds of craziness out there, especially the some of the Russian accounts are actually a bit out there, a little bit more than just, I saw some lights. Some of them are close encounters of the third kind, where they actually see beings and stuff like that. So it's always entertaining to read. But I agree with you. Yeah, because I think I saw that on Reddit one time. It's like, to think that we are or are not the only beings in this entire universe are both fantastic and frightening at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Because if we're the only things here, we're the only party going on, that's like, damn, that sucks. That sucks. Right?
That's what made the X-Files so cool, right? Is the what ifs.
Yes, exactly. No, that's the whole thing too. Because it's just like some of the Padawans are are a little bit more open to it, right? As well, just because again, there's so much more information. But the other thing is that like they think the moon landing was faked, right? Because they grew up in the era of special effects, right? It's like, no, that's the only reason you think that was faked is because you're used to that, and it's so easy to do now. But back in the day, it was impossible, right? So it's always teaching them that.
So here's to man getting back on the moon too, right? And just putting some people there and walking around and go, hey, look, we can do this.
And it's like, it seems that it feels like it's gonna accelerate, like with SpaceX and with what Amazon's doing and everything else. I think it's gonna happen, but it looks like the Russians and the Chinese are gonna get back to the moon before we do. So we shall see how that one goes.
Yeah,
they're already partnering, so we'll see how that one goes for them, man. I just, hopefully it needs to happen in some form or another. That's one of my passions is space. And so hopefully I get to be able to be part of it in some way, even if I'm 70 years old and it's going to be my first trip to space and I got to, pay some of my IRA to make it happen. I just may very well do that.
Well, that's what Virgin Galactic's doing. They're doing those space orbits.
They are. Are they doing it now? I know they're selling tickets.
I think they have some testing left, but that was their goal. And you have people that are going to make commercialized space flight available, and space.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait for that, because I think that'll be one of the things that I will partake of. Right. Regardless of my age.
Yeah, having started out in aerospace engineering, that still fascinates me. That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's it. And being it's kind of one of the steps, like to fly. I absolutely want to fly. So if there was a way, like if the jetpack, the mobile jetpack was invented and was released tomorrow, I would figure a way to buy that thing. Because that's just one of my, I don't know how I would do it. I just like, I'd make sure all the insurance is paid up and everything else, and then I just go fly someplace, because that's one of the dreams. So, but I don't know if they'll ever approve that kind of technology, because you can't get people to wear a mask. So I don't know how you're going to approve people flying around in jetpacks. So, but Dan, I love spending time with you. I'm glad we were able to do this. What are you working on? What do you want to promote? What do you want to tell everyone you are doing and pay attention to you on?
Nothing in particular. Just have some clients that I'm working on that I appreciate working with. Nothing really of note yet.
Okay.
So just like I said, I have a few things I've created in the past that I'm not gonna let them just fade off into the sunset quite yet.
Yep.
So when the time's right, if there's anything worth promoting, I'll be out there doing it. So.
Yes, and thank you for all the graphics you've been sharing with me as well, because you have been indispensable in sharing some of those graphics out there, especially the sunburst, because I look at it and I look at the graphic and I find something, I'm like, I bet Dan has done this already.
I've tried to amass a library over the years, and if something didn't exist, I would create it for myself just to have it for a reference. So.
You know what's, I don't know if you saw, so back in the 70s, no, there was I don't know if you saw this, and I think State Press did this. They tried to do a redesign after the sunburst, and it was before the Sparky design, I believe, because we've had the Sparky design for how long? I think it's probably 70s. Anyway, there was I'll send it to you. There's an article.
Was it the weird sun, like the?
But there was also, it was like 4, 5, or 6 designs that they had. They weren't the old sunburst, and they weren't the new Sparky. They were absolutely different designs, and so some of them were actually pretty cool. So I'll have to dig that one up and show it to you. But I was like, man, if we could figure a way to redesign
if they're decent enough resolution, I can recreate them. So.
Oh, they're garbage resolution. Oh, they're ass. It's a black and white picture. I mean, It would take some time to get the detail and Illustrator and everything else, but
yeah. Well, for the years that I was at doing graphic design and ad design, so one of the things we had to learn how to do or just get good at was rebuilding stuff. You get really terrible quality photo or whatever. Somebody's like, I need my logo in the ad, but they give you the shot of their logo that's on a building at like an angle from far away, and like that's all. So you'd get good at, I've lost some of my touch on looking at a font and saying it's that one, and just being able to build off of that.
Jealous.
Those types of things, but all of those kind of painstaking hours ago, and this really is terrible. Now when I have to go to rebuild stuff, it's kind of second nature now. So.
Okay, got it. That's good. So then I'll dig those up, because some of them were actually pretty cool. Especially there was one a Sunday. Anyway, I'll send it to you and we'll talk about it. So
all right.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate you and appreciate your time, and thank everyone for being a part of your Friday night. Thank you again. It's always, make sure you let everyone know that we are here on Friday nights. We're actually going to do a Mental Health Monday pretty soon, so watch out for that announcement as well. So Dan, I'm going to go ahead and take you off the stream, but stay on there. So after I wrap up, we'll get to chat a little bit. Again, everyone, good night. And again, to everyone out there, let's go ahead and make sure we can make the brand and remove all this other stuff and make myself look pretty so you can see my face all fully attention. Again, thank you, everyone, for being part of this. I appreciate you being making time. And as always, I love you. Thank you for being part of this. Make sure you love yourself. And as always, still, as hopefully some of you are still getting some of your vaccines, as some of us have not. So make sure you love those around you as well and protect those all in your community, in your family, and elsewhere. But as always, appreciate you being part of this. Watch for the next show that we have coming up. There will be a Mental Health Monday where we're going to be talking about bipolar disorder. And we'll also have another guest next Friday. And then we have a Sun Devil Summit coming up on the 2nd of April. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Make sure you let someone know about the social club. Share the links. Let them know that we are here and that we look forward to having them part of the show as well. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend and good night.